The story begins with notifications asking if he really wants to live a new life. Shortly after, a voice says it's just another one of those spam pages. Then, it introduces a boy sitting at a table, reading manga, and complaining that he doesn't need such outdated ads, and hasn't been able to find a job for weeks. The protagonist's room is a mess. As he continues messing with his computer, with his hand on the mouse, he gets upset about something he sees, dropping his lollipop. The computer screen shows an image of a black hole with colorful lights around it. The boy is pulled in, and, frightened, he asks what's going on. More notifications arrive, saying that he's embarking on a journey, but he still doesn't understand anything. The protagonist's eyes shed tears, and scared, he asks what they're talking about, as he didn't even have a choice. In another place, it shows the Earth era at Starlight Academy in the year 2666 of the Earth era. The Academy was invaded by alien creatures and suffered devastating blows. Later, the government used nuclear weapons to wipe out the creatures. However, the X-virus they left behind spread across the world, causing zombies and beasts to wander the Earth. From there, martial artists emerged and became the most respected warriors. Suddenly, Shu's bully of a roommate kicks the door open, angrily calling for him and finding the boy asleep. He picks him up from the bed and shakes him, asking where the food he asked him to get is and if he wants to starve him. Without a second thought, he throws the boy onto the ceiling, cracking it, still cursing at him. Falling onto the floor, Chiang's roommates observe and comment that he might be unconscious. He responds, saying the protagonist is just a loser. Approaching, he steps on the boy's hand and curses at him, saying it's an honor for him to be eliminated by his hands. Next, the laundry room is shown, full of dirty clothes. While Chiang steps on the boy's hand again, he says that he didn't bring food and made him look bad in front of June. Stepping on his hand again, he continues saying unnecessary things. Shu opens his eyes and tries to complain, but can't speak. Seeing a foot on his hand, he thinks it hurts and becomes confused, wondering if he wasn't just in his room reading manga. Chiang points at the boy, noticing that he's opening his eyes, realizing that he hasn't been executed yet. As the protagonist's hand tingles with pain, he gets up, still dazed, not understanding what's happening. The bully says he has a lot of endurance, kicking him and claiming he will keep hitting him until he's executed. The boy's face is covered in various injuries, with smoke surrounding his fallen body. Shu's eyes shed tears, and in anguish, he wonders who has such bad luck to end up like this. Elsewhere, people attack him physically and psychologically. Even the academy staff humiliates him, saying that zombies are everywhere and that someone like him could be eliminated in 3 days. The protagonist is then shown sitting on the floor, remembering the people who judged him and said cruel things. His mind can only wish for an end. With injuries on his face, he thinks that if he stays there, he won't survive. Shu stands up, with pain all over his body, thinking it's no surprise that the boy doesn't want to survive. He says it's not right to leave such messes in his hands, as tolerance isn't in his dictionary. Chiang notices the boy getting up and tells his friends to look at the defiant look in the little loser's eyes. Angrier, he asks who he thinks he is, punching him in the chest and asking if he's convinced. Racked with pain, the boy answers no. Chiang says he will attack again, claiming he'll keep beating him until he's convinced. He continues to hit him, causing more injuries, and repeatedly asks if he's convinced. The boy, irritated, stands up and says no, because abusers like him, even if he kills him, will never convince him. The bully wipes his face, which is covered with injuries. Still dazed, the boy wonders what kind of reincarnation this is. More notifications arrive, informing him that an accumulation of anger has been detected, presenting Sio's data and asking if he wants to release the accumulated rage. He notices that it's the same system from before. Just as the bully tries to attack him again, he unleashes his anger, blocking the punch, coming face to face with him, and attacking. Chiang's friends notice something is wrong and rush over, finding the bully on the ground, worried. Chiang, struggling to breathe and with various injuries, says he needs the infirmary quickly. Shu approaches and asks what they're still doing there. They, scared and nervous, pick up Chiang and rush out. The protagonist, with several injuries on his arm, says he needs to go too, and can't pretend anymore, stating that the blow has drained the little energy left in his body. Sitting in a chair, another notification arrives, saying he has obtained a roulette spin. He clicks spin, and upon seeing the roulette, he hopes for Linyan coins, as otherwise the money in the body's savings wouldn't be enough to heal his wounds. After the roulette spins, he wins 1,000 Linyan coins. Shu feels relieved. In the infirmary, he enters and says he's there for injury treatment. The nurse asks if he's Lin. Curious, he asks if she knows him. Approaching him, she says it's kind of impossible not to know him. Shu asks her not to call him Lin, as it sounds unpleasant. The nurse asks if he doesn't want her to call him Lin, as she strokes his abdomen, saying they'll talk about it later. Observing, the nurse tells him to take off his clothes and lie down. Embarrassed, he asks if he really needs to remove his clothes. She laughs and says he can keep his underwear on, but if he prefers to take everything off, she doesn't mind. Xue removes his pants, and she comments that it's not so bad and that it's not small. He asks where she's looking and thinks she's scary, fearing that if he doesn't control himself, he might lose his virginity right there. The nurse asks how much healing he wants. He replies that it costs 9,800 coins. He then lies down and reflects that the previous owner of the body was much weaker than he thought and probably suffered a lot. However, from now on, he won't let that happen. During the full preparation, it's noted that the body is completely injured, and the time for full healing will be 5 hours. He waits, lying down, for the process to finish. 5 hours later, he says he'll be a new Lin Xue. Meanwhile, in Class 29, it is explained that a recent exploration of Area 20 found 20 slots. The teacher says all martial arts beginners can join. However, he notices that Chiang is absent, and his classmates say he's undergoing surgery in Area C. The teacher asks what happened. They explain that he was beaten by Xue and that all his ribs are broken. The students can't believe it. One student from the class says he saw it with his own eyes. The teacher puts his hand on his face and says that, so, Chiang won't participate in the exploration of Area 20. Suddenly, Xue appears at the door and asks if he can go. The students observe and comment that the protagonist looks different now and doesn't seem like the same person. The teacher tells him not to rush, as Area 20 is more dangerous than he thinks, and he should first reach the initial rank in martial arts. Jun says Area 20 is a territory full of zombies and monsters, asking if he's trying to get himself killed. Xue laughs confidently and asks if he beats him, will he be allowed to go? The boy tells him to stop dreaming. Still confident, Xue asks if he wants to try. Jun slams his hand on the table, saying it's obvious. Standing up, he says he'll teach him a lesson, and that he shouldn't think he can act arrogantly in front of him just because he beat Chiang. The evaluation eye is activated, and Xue sees all of Jun's data. He notices that Jun is weaker than Chiang, as he just needs to dodge his attacks and wait until his anger maximizes, then strike with everything and easily defeat him. He tells him to meet him in the arena after class. In the academy arena, people comment on how Xue dares to challenge a martial arts beginner rank, saying they're about to witness a great show. The redhead approaches Xue and asks if he's really planning to fight him. Xue, confident, replies not to worry, as he's wanted to hit him for a long time. After climbing into the arena, Jun asks if he really dared to step up. Approaching to attack, he says he's going to teach Xue a lesson. Trying to land a punch, Xue dodges and thinks that Jun does have some strength, as even with his injuries and ailments healed, the punch still causes him some pain. A notification pops up, informing that the anger is still charging. Jun attempts several more strikes, but misses, telling Xue to stop dodging and take this seriously. Xue thinks that all he needs to do is dodge and block, waiting for the anger points to accumulate. The anger bar is almost full. The crowd laughs, saying that, as expected, he only knows how to dodge. The teacher thinks that if dodging isn't humiliating, he's never seen anyone this stubborn. Still dodging, Jun gets angrier and tells Xue to stop doing that. Then the anger reaches 100%, and the notification asks if he wants to release the accumulated anger. He says yes. As Jun tries to attack again, Xue strikes back, getting into close combat and throwing Jun away. Xue raises his hand, celebrating the victory. The crowd in the stands, who had been watching, are outraged. Jun, lying on the ground, coughs, and with injuries stands up, calling Xue trash. Xue approaches and responds that he was defeated by trash, asking what that makes him, and says it's something much worse than trash. The teacher orders that Jun be taken to the infirmary and that this doesn't affect the exploration of Area 20. People help him go to the treatment area. Then, the teacher claps and says he's impressed with what Xue did. The protagonist turns around and asks if he can now participate in the exploration. Area 20 is a city infected by a nuclear virus. The virus spread throughout the area, which is filled with zombies, mutants, beasts, and monsters, making it extremely dangerous. However, because the risk and the rewards are equal, parts of mutant animals and monsters are valuable materials, and their brains contain a magical crystal that helps martial artists cultivate. This material is unique and rare, with high value. The teacher, with the students in Area 20, says that all of them have received long-term training and should use the weapons and combat suits provided by the academy. Dealing with regular zombies and monsters won't be a problem. He says it's different from training because the mutant zombies and monsters they'll face are much more dangerous, and students have already been eliminated, devoured by zombies due to fear. Only by combat experience will they assess their skills, and that will make their hearts stronger. The redhead asks if Xue is scared because he looks so nervous. Xue asks, Scared of what? Thinking that, to him, these zombies are just valuable experience points. The teacher asks them to split into 4 groups and tells them not to go too deep, as they haven't been able to defeat the monsters in the deeper areas. He tells them to go. Everyone shouts, "Yes!" Next, a wounded bird appears. On one side of Area 20, the redhead and Shu walk. The blonde tells Shu not to be dead weight. The redhead says they should be careful and not cry when they see the zombies. The protagonist raises his arm, signaling him to stop talking, as he's spotted movement. The boys get alert. The smoke moves. The protagonist watches closely and says something is approaching. They take combat positions. The smoke increases, and sounds begin. A zombie appears, along with its specialties and combat abilities. The zombie charges forward. Shu observes the zombie's data and notices that even the zombie has better combat skills than him, as he only has 291 combat skills so far. The other boys watch as the protagonist positions himself with a sword in hand. He charges forward, focusing and attacking the zombie with his sword. Notifications come in, congratulating Zhu for defeating the zombie and leveling up, earning 2 attribute points. He's pleased and decides to add the 2 points to strength. Strength increases to 38, and he gets distracted. The redhead shouts for him to be careful. When he turns around, the protagonist faces some more zombies. The blonde tells him to move aside and, running, attacks the zombies with his sword. His friend says he's the best. Zhang remarks that he didn't know there was a mute chicken here. Shu observes and thinks about his experience points. Walking, he says they should leave. Elsewhere, a giant tree with bones appears. They walk, looking around, when a monster's foot approaches. Several smokes move, and Zhu, alert, tells them to wait. The monster has huge, sharp teeth. The redhead asks if he can kill it this time. The zombie leader looks to the side and notices something. The redhead asks what it is and tells them to go over there. The protagonist tells them not to leave the spot. The zombie moves closer. The redhead calls to it. The leader runs towards him. He looks at it, startled, and asks what that is and why it runs so fast. Soon after, the monster jumps at him, opening its enormous mouth with giant teeth. Zhang kicks it, telling the redhead to get out of there. The leader falls to the ground, and Zhang goes after him, trying to attack with his sword. Shu observes and tells him to wait, as the leader has to be eliminated with a single blow. Otherwise, more zombies will come, and the situation will worsen. Zhang calls him an idiot, and says he doesn't need his help to learn how to kill monsters. When he goes to attack, the zombie dodges, but Zhang still manages to cut off one of its arms. Zhang, indignant, says that the zombie knows how to dodge. The leader starts emitting a sound that grows louder. Then, a hand begins to rise from the ground, followed by several zombies of various types. They're shocked at what they see. Zhang says there are too many, and that he doesn't want to die here. Then, he runs away, and the redhead asks him to wait. The protagonist wonders if this is exactly what he wants. If he kills all these zombies, he'll level up several times. He then runs to attack the zombies, thinking that, if a bicycle can turn into a motorcycle, he can surpass himself. The redhead asks what he's doing and if he's crazy. Confident, the protagonist thinks he can do this. He begins attacking the zombies, and the redhead watches, impressed, asking if this is really the guy he knows, and if he has to fight so brutally. A zombie approaches the protagonist, and he attacks it. The two are in the middle of the zombies, and the redhead says he'll stay with him. The leader approaches Shu and jumps at him. The redhead watches and calls for Shu. The monster opens its huge mouth, trying to attack, but Zhu pushes its head away and asks how it dares to attack him like that. More notifications arrive, informing him that he earned more attribute points. He's happy, as he leveled up 3 times in a row and gained 12 attribute points. He adds all points to strength, and strength increases to 50. His muscles also grow. He grabs the zombie's head, dislocating it with his own hands and defeating it, as the monster's neck twists. Shu kicks it, sending it flying. Then, he picks up his sword and finishes it off. More notifications come in, congratulating him for executing the leader. His data is presented. The two look around and notice they've managed to defeat all the zombies there. Shu checks the data and wonders if the system did this on purpose, also reflecting on gene blocking, as he's read about it in some books during cultivation. However, most of the fragments of human genetics haven't been used yet. Therefore, the majority of human potential remains unlocked, and genetic blocking is the body's most basic potential. If the genetic block in the body is fully unlocked, one could become a divine existence. He wonders how strong he can become if he manages to unlock the first gene. He then presses to have the system unlock the first gene. He's excited to have unlocked the first genetic chain, but when he presses, he's warned of danger and told that the host level is below 15. Therefore, he's unable to unlock it. Xiu gets angry but thinks that he just needs to level up more and says he'll soon reach the required level to unlock the genetic chain. The redhead approaches and asks if he's the same person he knows, because he suddenly seems so strong, even killing the zombie leader. Xiu responds that it was just a simple leader. The redhead replies that he complimented him once, and now he's acting arrogant. Xiu then walks away, telling them to continue. While walking, they come across a sign saying that the area is restricted for martial arts beginners, and they can't proceed. Xiu says it looks like the restricted area the teacher mentioned, and the redhead asks if they should go in. The protagonist wonders if they should check, as on the way here, there wasn't a single zombie that didn't give experience. He's curious whether they should investigate. The redhead calls out to him, pointing and saying there's a snake. Xiu looks and is startled. The snake is huge, with color-changing abilities, and its combat specialties and abilities can't be analyzed. The redhead points and says it's a type of giant python. The protagonist, alarmed, says it's an evolved monster, noting that he's unable to analyze it. The monster approaches and opens its massive mouth, trying to attack them, and they need to run. Xiu tells them to run fast. The snake watches and heads in their direction. Terrified, the protagonist runs and wonders why the snake is chasing him. The redhead bends over, panting, and feels relieved that it didn't follow them further. He says the snake wouldn't go deeper into the restricted area, so they should run. In another location, filled with rocks and trees, the protagonist hides and wonders if the snake is gone, thinking it didn't catch up. He thinks he should have been warned, as the snake can change its color to blend with the terrain, so it must be hiding, preparing to strike. Then, a man points a weapon at him and tells him not to move. He asks what he's doing hiding there, and notes that, judging by the clothes, it looks like the Starshine Academy uniform. Xiu raises his hands and says he's just passing through. He realizes these are the people who hunt zombies and mutated monsters for rewards and crystals, and they are officially martial artists. He knows he won't be able to win in this situation. The other guy grabs his sword and says he's always wanted one for so long, taking it and telling Xiu to hand it over so he can leave. The protagonist asks if he's seriously asking for the sword in this place, wondering if he's trying to get him killed. The guy raises the sword to strike and says he'll eliminate him now, but suddenly they notice something strange and look back. They spot the giant snake, and as they try to run, it devours them without hesitation. The team stays alert and says it's a python, and everyone should be careful. They mention that being rank 3, it drops materials and crystals worth millions. They decide to kill the snake, saying they're going to get rich. Hidden, the protagonist observes and thinks about rank 1 attacking rank 3. He wonders if they think it's that easy to get rich. They try to attack the giant snake, and Xiu thinks he needs to find a chance to get his sword back and escape. They attack the snake, but it throws them away. The bald man approaches to attack, but the snake opens its enormous mouth and ends up injuring his arm. The brunette asks everyone to attack the 7 weak points of the snake together. They prepare and strike. The brunette keeps attacking its head, saying that it's finally eliminated. Xiu approaches, and the guy notices him and asks if he was the one who attracted the snake. He orders Xiu to cut the python's crystal out, telling him not to try anything funny, or he'll eliminate him. The protagonist asks if he's an idiot, saying that a failing commander dares to act arrogantly and give orders. He says he'll cut and dismantle the snake, take the crystal out, but now, the crystals will be his. The guy gets angry and asks who Xiu thinks he is, trying to steal from him. He attacks and tells Xiu that this is the end. Xiu dodges and says the guy has nothing in his eyes, then attacks the guy's arm, inflicting a serious wound. The guy falls to the ground and asks how Xiu dares to touch him, challenging him to do it again. He says he's from the Zhang family. The protagonist responds that he doesn't know any family by that name, but he knows they tried to steal his sword and eliminate him, so he won't let them get away with it. He then attacks the guy with his sword and eliminates him, leveling up and gaining 2,500 experience points. Xiu observes and thinks that the rewards aren't bad. He then adds the 7 points to speed and physique to stabilize his strength. He approaches the snake to collect the crystal and thinks that it's the first time he's seen a monster core. Martial artists absorb energy cores to cultivate, and they can also be used as an energy source for certain machines. A color-changing python could be sold for a high price. Looking at their bags, he notices they had 2 monster cores, but the weapons were worthless, of low quality, and would only be unnecessary weight if he took them. So he grabs what's useful, and with the backpack on his back, says it's time to find Yang and the others. While walking, he comes across a sign that reads, "Dangerous Area." He wonders why he's there and whether he went in the wrong direction. He realizes he can't stay there anymore and needs to run. Suddenly, he hears an extremely loud noise. Looking around, he says, "Why is something like that showing up there?" He comes face to face with a leopard, its specialties and combat abilities unknown. Hidden, He thinks it's a rank 4 evolved beast, but he can't analyze it, so he needs to escape. However, he notices something strange, wondering if someone is there. Looking to the side, he sees a martial artist of rank 4, but the data is not visible. Xiu is surprised to see her but can't analyze her combat specialties and abilities. He watches as she tries to attack the leopard. The leopard stays alert and attempts to pounce on her, but she dodges and strikes it with her sword, sending it flying. Xiu wonders if this is the combat power of a high-rank martial artist and affirms that she's really strong. He believes that, one day, he'll be much stronger. The leopard is still on the ground. The girl approaches it. The protagonist, still observing, is curious and wonders if the fight is over. But suddenly, the leopard gets up. Injured, it still attempts to attack. The girl takes an offensive stance, but the leopard uses terrifying moves, causing an explosion and sending the girl flying. Xiu wonders if she's dead, as the leopard pretended to be dead and launched a critical strike on her. But upon closer inspection, he realizes it's not a fake death, but rather an attack before dying. He thinks the leopard still isn't dead and wonders if he lands the final blow, he'll be the only one to kill the monster and get the core of an evolved beast, which could be very valuable. He then slowly approaches the beast, and just as he's about to strike it, he looks back and gets startled to see another leopard. He starts running and thinks that he forgot that these types of leopards hunt in pairs, a male and a female. The leopard begins chasing him, and he, terrified, tries to run as fast as possible, shouting that he wasn't the one who killed it. But suddenly, he stops and finds himself at a dead end. Looking back, he grabs his sword and tells the leopard not to come any closer, or he'll wound it. The leopard tries to pounce on him, but without hesitation, he jumps into the abyss and says he'd rather jump than be eaten and devoured. Xiu falls into the water and starts shouting, wondering if this is the bottom of the cliff. He thinks the trees on the cliff must have softened his fall, and the river helped cushion the impact. Getting out of the water, he notices someone floating on it. He sees a girl and says it seems like she was also thrown off the cliff by the leopards. As he approaches her, he asks if she's dead. He then picks her up and says she's still breathing, assuming she fainted. He gets out of the water and places her on the grass. He wonders why it has to be such a beautiful girl. Xiu observes her and guesses that she's around 17 or 18 years old, but despite her young age, she's already a rank 4 martial artist. Then, he thinks she must be a genius from a big family. He says he hasn't eaten since morning and looks at the river, noticing there are fish. He makes a fire and grills them. Sitting on a stone, he eats the fish and comments that, even without seasoning, it still tastes good. But then he notices something strange again. Upon observing, he realizes something is trying to attack him and asks if the girl is crazy and what she's trying to do. The girl, holding a sword, asks why he's so naked and what he did with her. Annoyed, he responds that he pulled her out of the water and, if it weren't for him, she would have drowned. Then she asks if he saved her. While eating the fish, Xiu tells her not to worry because he doesn't need her to offer her body as payment. The girl calls him a pervert. Xiu says that even though she calls him a pervert, her voice sounds cute. He then offers her the roasted fish and asks if she's going to eat. She takes the fish, and the protagonist asks if she got hurt, since he doesn't have any medicine with him, and tells her to eat to regain some energy. He sits down and introduces himself, telling her his name. She sits down, eating the fish, and says her name is Luo, asking what he wants. Since she doesn't like owing anyone anything, she tells him to say what he wants, and she'll give it to him. Then there will be no more debt between them, or he'll be eliminated. Xiu gets startled and says he's her savior, and that he wants to be stronger than her, asking what she thinks. She responds that his potential is very weak. Tears start to fall from his eyes, and he asks if she could stop hurting him with her words, wondering if she thinks he has no self-esteem. As night falls, Luo falls asleep while the protagonist stays seated, observing the system and laughing. He notices that after eliminating the martial artist, he got a spin from the system's roulette. So he decides to spin the roulette. He spins it, joining his hands and closing his eyes, praying for a weapon. Watching it spin, he says, "Unfortunately, it's just more coins." He gets irritated, but the roulette stops on another prize. He is congratulated and informed that he won the super prize, 100 birds versus the phoenix. The protagonist is happy and says that finally, God has blessed him. He gains a skill card created for martial artists of rank 6 or higher. It's categorized into bronze, silver, gold, and diamond, and the higher the rank, the more powerful the skill. However, he observes and isn't thrilled, asking if the system is playing with him and what all of this is above him. He notes that it's a bronze card with a spear skill, harder to cultivate. Then, he sees a glowing green object. He picks it up and says it's a growth card, which is very precious because it grows and changes according to the martial artist's cultivation. He's thrilled and says the system didn't deceive him. With this card, his next skill will be to find a long spear as his weapon, since spears are the hardest to master. Luo notices the protagonist laughing and asks what's so funny. He awkwardly replies that it's nothing. The girl looks away and asks if he heard something. Xiu says yes, it sounds like someone is approaching. She says it could be a group. Hidden, he tells her they need to leave now because they don't know if they're friends or enemies. Seeing that she's still struggling, he asks if she can move. He then approaches her and asks her to climb onto his back. She asks if he's asking her to be carried. Xiu asks if she's happy to take the initiative, and if she feels bad about it, he can leave her there. Maybe later, when they see how beautiful she is, they won't be able to resist doing things to her. Luo climbs onto his back and tells him to stay quiet. A group approaches where they were and notices there was someone there. They say they must not be far, and that there seems to be another martial artist around, so they should find and eliminate them. While the protagonist is still carrying the girl, she asks if he knew she's heavy, and that he should lose some weight. He responds that he's the one who should lose weight, as she's not heavy, it's just the sword on his back that weighs. But then, he suddenly stops, facing several plumes of smoke. Using his analyzing eye to identify the beast, he notes that it's a red viper, with unidentified specialties and combat skills. He says it's an evolved monster, and as he checks the monster's data, he wonders if this is a bit much. Luo asks him to take her sword. Xiu touches the sword and says it's good. When he picks it up, he thinks it's very heavy and asks what it's made of. He wonders how she can wield such a heavy sword with just one hand, and laments that this is the difference in their strength. Luo asks him to stop stalling, put the sword down, and kill the beast already. So he places the sword on the ground, and the girl says that the sword is very fast and specializes in fighting in the dark, asking him to stay still and await her orders. The viper approaches. Xiu thinks he can't even see its speed because it's too fast, but he realizes it's not that. It's the darkness of the night affecting his vision. He tries to attack, swinging the sword to the left, but misses the monster. Luo tells him to be faster, so he stares hard at the beast and strikes it in the head with a single blow. He laughs and says it was easily killed by him. The girl says that a rank 2 viper, and he still put so much effort into dealing with it. Her lack of potential is so great. He asks if she could stop attacking him with her words. He then flips her off and tells the viper to come bite him, because not only will he eliminate it, but he'll also take its core and sell it for a good price. The snake moves and tries to attack him. He pulls back and wonders why it can do that. Then the viper bites his hand, and he comments that it's the decapitated head attack, smashing its head into the ground and asking if biting isn't enough. Stepping on it, he declares it's over. More notifications come in, congratulating him for eliminating the viper. With his hands soaked, he realizes he was careless and forgot the system's warnings. He then fiddles with the beast's head and asks if the girl knew that the viper's head could separate and why she didn't warn him. She responds that it's because he didn't ask. Xiu complains about pain from his injury. His whole body starts to tingle, and he says the analysis warned him, but he forgot. Starting to scream in pain, he realizes it's too hot and itchy. Luo thinks she forgot that the viper had poison and that it's making Xiu's body heat up. He wonders what to do. Xiu's body is full of allergies. He begins to breathe in smoke from the heat. The girl moves away and tells him not to come near her. The protagonist asks what's going on and what kind of poison it is. He then approaches her and kisses her. She bites his mouth and quickly pulls away. Luo tells him that if he doesn't leave now, she'll eliminate him. With his hand on his mouth, he apologizes and says it wasn't his intention. She points out that there's a lake nearby that might help him calm down. The protagonist runs to it and apologizes again, saying it wasn't on purpose. Without a second thought, he jumps into the lake, feels relieved, and says it's so refreshing. Remembering that he forcibly kissed the beautiful cold girl, he thinks she's soft and smells good. Luo, sitting on the ground, asks why he's taking so long. One of the group members observes from a distance and says they've finally found her. The girl stands up and tells the group to leave, or it will be the end for them right there. The group moves closer, and the blonde man asks if she has the strength to do this. He says he saw her fall off the cliff after being attacked by the lightning leopard, and judging by how quickly she killed one of the leopards, she must be the heir of some big family. He licks his lips and says he's wanted to try an heir like her for a long time. Luo calls him disgusting and tries to attack him with her sword, but they put their foot out in front of her to make her fall. Then, the protagonist steps forward and asks if they want to be eliminated. The blonde man asks who he is. He then introduces himself, stating his name, rank, specialty, and combat skills. They are outraged. Zhang, nervous, wonders how that's possible, and if he's using some device to measure skills and how he can do that. The protagonist says he'll give them 5 seconds. Either they disappear right now, or none of them will ever leave this place. Zhang becomes frightened, apologizes, and says they'll leave immediately, running off. The protagonist helps the girl stand up and asks if she's okay. She replies that it seemed cool and asks how he knew their information. He laughs and says it's a secret, adding that they should leave before the group comes back and decides to fight. The group approaches Zhang and says they checked and found no one, probably because they fled after leaving. If it had been a master, they wouldn't have run away so quickly. Zhang punches a tree, splitting it in half, and says, "How dare he deceive me?" He asserts that since she's injured, they'll leave the restricted area directly. They just need to wait there for her to recover. While they're hiding, Luo asks why they're going further into the restricted area, as the monsters there are even stronger and more dangerous. He answers that the more dangerous it is, the safer the place is. He says they saw she was hurt and thought they would leave quickly, but now they'll stay there and wait for her to recover. Luo replies that she never thought he could be so smart, despite being so weak. He asks if she could stop attacking him with her words. At dawn, they're sleeping side by side. The protagonist wakes up surprised, wondering why she's sleeping on his arm and why she's hugging him. As if she finds out, he'll be eliminated instantly. Luo wakes up and he, embarrassed, says the weather's great. She says there's an evolved monster nearby. He asks where, and she says she's not wrong, as she sensed the smell in the air. The protagonist asks if she's a dog. She replies that they should leave. As they walk, he says he needs to prepare for battle. He asks if she's better. The girl answers no, that she still needs 2 more days, and throws the sword to him, saying he will be the one to fight. He gets startled and says that the weakest monsters around are rank 2. She says that with his current skills, if he doesn't fight the stronger enemies, how does he plan to evolve in rank? She tells him not to worry, that she won't let him die. The protagonist ponders. Next, they encounter a rank 2 boar with tusks. He laughs and says it's rank 2 right away. She says its weak spot is its belly. The boar opens its huge mouth and charges at them. On the second day, notifications pop up congratulating him for eliminating a leopard. More notifications arrive, congratulating him for leveling up. The protagonist comments that these were the 30 evolved monsters and thinks Luo is scary because, at her age, she already knows so much about evolved monsters, their habitats, attack methods, and weak points. With her help, he managed to eliminate 2 rank 3 monsters, and his level has now risen to 9. He asks if she doesn't want any of the crystal cores. She replies that she doesn't need them, as she's completely healed. Then she says this is her goodbye. He says he can't leave her there, because those idiots are still waiting for him outside the restricted area. She says that's his problem. The protagonist replies that it was she who attracted them, asking how this could be his problem. Also, she just recovered, and he asks what she's planning, knowing she's about to leave. Luo replies that she's going to find the lightning leopard. He follows her and asks if she still wants to eliminate it. She answers that she won't fail this time and says that the next time they meet, if his ability is weaker than hers, she will eliminate him. The protagonist asks if she's going to take revenge on him. She, asking where he's from, flies and says she's from the Saint area. Upon arriving in the restricted area, she says it's been 2 days and they should have left by now. But a sword tries to strike him. He turns around and asks who it is. One of the group members laughs and says they finally found him, and luckily, they didn't leave today. He asks where the girl is but says never mind, because first, he'll teach him the consequences of deceiving them. The protagonist thinks that it's just one of them, but since he's still rank 1, he needs to defeat him before the others arrive. The boy attacks him with the white snake explosion. The protagonist defends with a shield, creating a huge explosion, but hides behind a rock, thinking that if he had a long spear, this would be an easier battle. The boy says that a martial artist who doesn't even know martial techniques dared to deceive them. Then, he charges at the protagonist and says that with this ability, he'll see how he'll pierce his heart. The protagonist defends, and his rage is completed. More notifications arrive, asking if he would like to use the accumulated rage. He says yes, and unleashes a full-force attack, almost hitting the boy between the legs. The boy yells that these are terrible tricks while trying to block the protagonist's attack, but he's struck in the groin and screams in pain, sustaining injuries. He kneels in agony, and the protagonist finishes him off. Gaining experience, the protagonist reaches level 10. New notifications arrive, informing him that he unlocked the initiative skill, gaining strength, speed, and energy for the next 10 minutes. After the skill's effect ends, he will enter an extreme state of exhaustion. He's happy to have unlocked another skill and puts all his points into agility. As he's about to leave, he notices something strange and encounters the rest of the group. Zhang asks how he dares eliminate his people. The protagonist asks if they think he is stupid enough to surrender and be eliminated, thinking that he doesn't know if he'll have a chance to defeat the rest of the group. Zhang gives the order for everyone to attack and defeat him. Xu is left unsure of what to do, scared, thinking that the only option left is to test his new skill, causing a terrifying explosion. He feels satisfied as his speed, strength, and physique increase at the same time, making him feel strong and relieved. The blonde is indignant, asking why his aura has gotten so strong, as they are attacked again. He notices that Zhu is no longer there, wondering if he's a monkey and why he's so quick to run away, ordering his team to spread out and look for him. Hidden, Zhu thinks he only has 5 minutes left before he becomes too exhausted, and when that happens, he'll be weak again. So, he needs to finish this quickly. Noticing that one of the group's weapons is a long spear, he jumps on top of the person, knocking them to the ground and taking the spear. Saying that he's ready now, another member of the group approaches and informs the leader that Xu is there. Without thinking twice, the leader runs to the location and orders him to stop. The dark-haired one then uses his martial technique, bronze windblade, to attack, while the protagonist uses the spear and his 100 birds against the phoenix ability, with multiple flames. The dark-haired one is impressed and asks what kind of martial art that is. Without waiting, Xu attacks and notifications appear, saying he gained EXP. Zhang, observing from afar, doesn't understand and wonders how he managed to eliminate Hong like that. Then, together with his group, he tries to attack him. Zhang uses the silver martial technique, Berserk Hunter's sword, and the other two attack as well, while Xu defends and thinks that he never imagined his skill would drain so much of his physical strength, wondering if, with the Fury buff, he could use 2 abilities at once. He continues defending until the Fury is complete, thinking that he must defeat them quickly and use everything he has to take down the rank 2 martial artist. The redhead approaches the leader and asks if Xu is really just an apprentice, and whether he should be able to endure the attacks like this. The leader responds that he must have used some secret technique, but such techniques have side effects, and they just need to prevent him from fleeing again. Then more notifications appear, asking if he wants the Fury energy, as it has been completed. The protagonist says yes. Grabbing the spear, he thinks to himself that he will channel all of his fury into an attack. Then, he attacks. Zhang says it's all a bunch of stupid tricks, but Xu's spear pierces through his weapon, breaking it into pieces. The blonde changes his mind and says that the attack is too strong. Xu continues attacking, telling him to feel the taste of his spear now, attacking with his 100 birds against the phoenix skill. Zhang asks if it's a gold martial technique, as the spear strikes him in the stomach, but the spear begins to crack, and the protagonist thinks that this long spear can't withstand the power of the 100 birds and is breaking. Annoyed, he wonders why his spear broke at such a crucial moment, until he realizes that his sword energy is also depleted, and he doesn't even have the strength to draw his sword. Zhang observes and laughs, satisfied, saying, "God, it seems like they want him eliminated." Without thinking twice, he approaches to attack him, but notices someone defending Xu. The nurse approaches and asks how 2 rank 2 hunters dare to touch an academy student, asking who gave them such audacity. Zhang asks who she is. She replies that they are not worthy of knowing, saying she'll count to 3 and expects them to disappear once she stops counting, as she's only there to save people and doesn't care about defeating them, especially someone like them. While they run away, Xu realizes that this doctor is a rank 4 martial artist, because when he first saw her, he thought she was a normal person, which is why he didn't activate the analyzer eye. The nurse looks at him and says that she underestimated him, as she didn't expect him to eliminate 3 rank 1 martial artists and almost 1 rank 2, and says that he is very aggressive, and she likes that. Xu, embarrassed, asks why she's there. She responds that she's the school's doctor, so of course she follows the school's rules and everything, and needs to take care of the injured students. She asks him to take his clothes off to help with his recovery. He feels embarrassed and says no, as they're just scratches, and asks why they always ask him to get undressed whenever they see her. The doctor moves closer to his face and asks if he doesn't need his little sister to help him heal. With red cheeks, he answers no. She grabs his arm and says she'll help him get out of there because they've already started to regroup. He says it's nothing and thanks her. Everyone is gathered and being presented, showing how much each one has achieved. The teacher says it's not bad at all, as after these days of combat, many of them have improved, and even their physical strength has become stronger. Only with combat experience can one become stronger. Looking to the side, he notices that Xu isn't there, and he's the only one missing. He asks if Yang has seen him. Yang replies that they found a rank 3 fightin', and in the panic, Xu ran into the restricted area. The teacher is shocked that he went into the restricted area alone. Zheng says that trash is trash. He went in alone, either died by zombies or got swallowed by some beast. Yang gets angry, clenches his fist, and tells him to say that again. He replies that he's just speaking the truth, asking if Yang wants to fight. The teacher interrupts and tells both to be quiet and wait, as Xu might come back. Jun says that it's almost night, asking if they should stay there, and says they don't have to stay because Shu must have been eliminated a long time ago. Then, a voice asks who's cursing him. Everyone looks, and Shu approaches, saying it seems like Jun wants another beating, asking if he should knock him out again to make him shut up. Yang is pleased to see this. Jun says he thought Shu had been eliminated, and the protagonist walks over confidently. The teacher asks if he's okay, and he responds that he is. Chaeyu says that over the past few days he hasn't just been hiding, and that, at least, he should mention that he defeated a beast, laughing. The protagonist responds that it looks like they've killed a lot of mutant beasts. He says, of course, and that Zhang killed 8 rank 1 beasts. People comment that, as expected of the class representative, he's amazing, boosting his ego. Shu asks if 8 rank 1 beasts are considered a lot, throwing all the cores from his bag on the ground. The teacher says that there are 16 rank 1 cores, 2 rank 2 cores, and 3 rank 3 cores. Everyone is surprised, and someone asks if those are rank 3 cores, and if there are really 3 of them. People can't believe it. Zhang, irritated, says it can't be true, and that the teacher is definitely lying to them. The teacher stands up and asks, lying? And wonders if Zhang is lying to him as well, saying that a rank 3 core costs around 450,000, and asking who among them could afford to buy 3 just to deceive him. Zhang tries to say something, but the teacher interrupts and says that this training is showing more results than expected. Since they aren't real martial artists, they can't sell on the official website yet, but the hotel manager is buying cores. Yang and Shu observe, intrigued. At the hotel, a rank 1 core costs 1,000, and the boy tells the manager that he has 2, which will be enough to live well for a month, while the line to sell cores is long. The protagonist asks why he's being left last. Yang responds that it's because he has too many cores, and if he went before, he asks if the protagonist realizes how many people would get upset. He then places all the cores on the counter. The manager becomes interested, as he has rank 3 cores, and 3 of them. He says he'll give 500,000 for just 1. Yang is impressed, and the people around are too, as with 5 rank 2 and 16 rank 1 cores, it's almost 2 million. The manager asks Yu to send the union card because he'll send the money immediately. Another guy arrives, pushing the protagonist aside and telling him to get out of the way as he's wasting time. Shu observes and stays silent. The bully asks if the brats are from class 29, and Yuan, his buddy, says they're losers, and yet they tried to do a combat training. While Yang is irritated, asking what they said, Shu, observing, notices they're top-tier students, as he's heard about them before. They were once at the initial rank and are now almost complete. This Sun seems to be ranked 18th in the combat ranking. Sun hands over and says that there are 10 rank 1 cores, 1 rank 2 core, and asks them to exchange them for union currency. He asks if they saw that he eliminated a rank 2 beast, calling that power, something people like them can never do. He says that his class still has the trash of trash, and that's Lin Shu, as expected from the trash of the class. The protagonist walks up and says that he's the trash he was talking about, asking why they cut the line and how much nonsense they're talking. He says it's better for him to apologize, or he'll have to let him taste the feeling of being beaten by trash. The bully gets angry and curses, saying he needs to teach him a lesson. Shu clenches his fist, ready to punch. Sun asks if he wants to fight up close and that he's about to experience his end. They start fighting, and the bully wonders why he's so strong, holding his arm in pain. He then kicks him and says he needs to break him. Shu lifts his feet and says he's still nothing, attacking and hitting his face, causing injuries. People scream for him to finish him off. The bully puts his hand on his face and says it seems like he's not that useless, but he managed to make him really angry. He then clenches his fist and starts using his abilities, while the protagonist dodges, waiting for his ability to be completed. Zhang watches, wondering how Shu reached this level in just 3 days of training, as facing a first-class opponent isn't something anyone can do. Sun asks if he's just going to keep dodging, saying he'll show him what a real punch is, attacking him with his ability. People shout for Zhu to be careful. Yuan says he's underestimating him. But the bully realizes that the protagonist blocked his punch. A notification pops up saying the fury energy has been accumulated, asking if he wants to use the attack. Shu thinks he can easily defeat him with his own power and wants to make an example of him so that others won't dare provoke him. Then he twists the bully's arm, breaking it. The bully screams in pain. Yuan gets worried about him. Sun's teammates get angry and say unnecessary things. Yang says they were the ones who attacked first and calls them out. Yuan says it's just practice, asking if what he did wasn't too cruel. The protagonist responds that he used a martial technique just now, and if it were anyone else, they would have been seriously injured by him, so he's just returning what they did. Yuan responds that it was excessive. The hotel manager asks them to stop for a moment and says he's already sent the money for the 3 rank 3 beast cores, asking them to check. Yuen wonders if he heard correctly and if Shu is capable of eliminating rank 3 beasts, asking why he's so strong. The protagonist says he heard that Yuen wants to avenge his friend, as it seems like he wants to fight him, thinking he's got a full-on attack waiting for him. When they face off, a voice approaches asking what they're doing and if they want to fight. The teachers enter through the door, and Sun's teammates tell the teacher that the class 29 students broke his arm. Yang says they're talking nonsense, as he attacked them first. The teacher asks him to tell everything, without leaving out any details. After hearing everything, the teacher says he understands and asks Shu how he can hit students from the same school, telling him to apologize. But in his thoughts, he thinks it's good because the elite students act arrogantly every day and even look down on others. The protagonist walks up to Sun and apologizes for using too much force, saying not to worry, as he'll pay for the medical fees, since that's the least of his worries now. Sun looks irritated. The teacher puts his hand on his forehead, wondering if he's really apologizing, as the damage is so high, but it's super humiliating. Professor Jiang says that both made mistakes, so Xue has already apologized, and the matter will be closed there, asking for Sun to be quickly taken for treatment. The bully leaves with his arm broken, still grumbling, asking if he dares to come again next time. Xue asks why he would be scared. He replies that they'll meet in the arena and walks off. The students from class 29 get excited, saying that Xue is really strong and thanking him. The professor tells them to drop the matter and says everyone should head down to check their combat capabilities. They go downstairs, and the professor says he wants to see if they improved after the real combat training, asking who'll go first, since the tavern owner's device setup has been updated and needs verification. Chayu says he'll go first. He shows his data, and his overall combat power is 450. The professor goes through everyone's stats and mentions that Zhang is almost ready to become a martial artist. Xu observes and thinks that combat power between 300, 600 is a basic level warrior, 600, 800 is almost a warrior, and 800, 1500 is a first order warrior. The professor says that since Zhang reached the level of a great warrior, he can try cultivation tomorrow. Zhang thanks him. The reason he became so strong is due to the cultivation technique, as there are many energies in the universe that are beneficial to humans. These energies are called sources. Through cultivation, a martial artist absorbs source energy from the air, strengthens cell vitality, muscles, and even bones, making the body stronger. Then it's Xu's turn. He steps onto the device, and people laugh, as Chu says he doesn't need to test anything, and that even with some strength, trash is still trash. Yang asks if he has the ability to break one of Sun's group members' arms. Xu responds that it was just a coincidence. On the equipment, Xu thinks everyone will be able to see his current strength, even though he's the #1 trash at the academy. The professor at the academy says he left Zhang and Xu behind because he wanted to discuss their choices for their future development paths. Since both are potential martial artists, they need to pick a suitable weapon. Zhang gets furious that Xu is also a potential martial artist, and after checking the device, he finds that Xu's overall combat power is 676. Yang is happy for him and says that's a bit more than Zhang's. Chu and Zhang are speechless. The professor says it's excellent, as their class has 2 future potential martial artists. Zhang still can't believe Xu is stronger than him. The professor says they need to understand that any evolved beast of rank 3 or higher has mutated skin, and even a bullet or laser-type weapon can't pierce it. But thanks to the hard work of humans, special metals from other planets have been obtained, and weapons made from these metals can damage evolved beasts. He asks them to choose a weapon that suits them, and then a matching martial technique. Xu says he's thought about it for a long time and decided he will choose the spear. The professor says the spear is the king of weapons, and if he masters it, he will become very strong. He adds that spears are one of the hardest weapons to practice and asks if he's sure. Xu replies affirmatively. The professor hands over the card and says his information has been registered. With this card, he can go to the 2nd floor of the library and get basic techniques. He asks why Xu chose that weapon. Xu asks if he knows who the top 10 martial artists in the world are. The professor says he does and starts listing the top 10. Xu slams the table and says that the martial arts ranking is missing a spear user. The professor stops, thinks for a moment, and says that indeed, there is no spear user in the top 10. He's surprised, but Xu walks off, saying he'll see him around. The professor watches and thinks that the boy has great ambition and could become famous and strong in the near future. Xu asks for the spear technique and receives the martial arts technique card. He says that now he just needs a good spear, sighing that since he's not an official martial artist yet, he can't buy anything from the martial union site. He walks toward the martial weapons hall and realizes that he can only try his luck there. After entering, An old man laughs and asks him to speak up, asking what weapon he wants. The protagonist says he wants to buy a spear. The man replies that not many students use this weapon, but he's just made a bunch of long spears, showing them and asking him to take a look. He shows a spear that weighs 20 kilograms, made from extraterrestrial meteorite, and says it's worth its price, costing only 200,000, but with a discount, it's only 50,000. Xiu takes it in his hand and feels that it's too light. The seller shows another, weighing 35 kilograms, listing its details, price, and discount, but Xiu says it's still too light. He tries another one, and the man says it's 45 kilograms, listing all the details, but Xiu says it's still too light, asking if he has anything heavier. The seller starts sweating. Getting irritated, he asks if Xiu is here to buy a spear or just to mess around. If he wants something heavier, he has one, but he's afraid Xiu won't be able to lift it. The man grabs a huge box and sets it on the ground, saying it's been stored for a long time because it's extremely heavy. He opens the box, revealing a spear that's covered in dust, saying it was made from the mother stone of stellar ore, weighing 65 kilograms. Xiu is left speechless, continuing to listen as the man talks about how strong it is, explaining that normal stellar ore alone wouldn't be able to create it. He says the spear is called the Steel Soul. Xiu picks it up and says it feels perfect. Satisfied, he says he wants this one. The seller says the original price is 1.5 million, but since it hasn't been sold in a long time, he'll give a 20% discount, making it 1.2 million. He thinks to himself that the spear weighs 65 kilograms and the boy can lift it freely, wondering if he's truly just a potential martial artist. Xiu thinks the price is steep and asks if he can pay in installments. The man says no, he has to pay it all at once or leave it. Xiu thinks it's a scam, as he worked hard to get the cores, and just buying this spear alone will make him pay half of his earnings. Meanwhile, Xiu believes that after becoming a potential martial artist, he can finally use the cultivation technique. Currently, there's energy in every corner of Earth, which martial artists call yuan, but normal people cannot sense, absorb, or forge their bodies with it. Sitting on the ground, he wonders what kind of change his body will go through, as he doesn't feel any alteration. He then checks his system, noticing that his physique and strength have increased by 2 points each, which could be due to the cultivation technique. To increase these stats, he usually needs potential points from the system. A notification arrives asking if he wants to proceed with the draw. Xiu realizes that, aside from the regular rewards, there's usually a chance for a monthly lottery. He starts the draw. As the roulette spins, he hopes he doesn't get another weapon, since he just spent 1.2 million on a spear, and it would be a big loss. The roulette stops, and he wins a fast growth package. A surprise box appears. When he opens it, he finds several outfits and asks what they are. More notifications arrive, asking if he wants to use the fast growth package. The protagonist agrees, and more notifications appear, asking him to wear the items from the package for cultivation. After putting them on, he wonders what these items are. Once dressed, he asks, "Now what?" Another notification says that he successfully equipped the items and the fast growth package has been activated. The current progress begins to load. He becomes frustrated, falls to the ground, and asks what's happening, saying it feels heavy. The data shows that the vest weighs 40 kilograms, bringing the total weight to 130 kilograms. He places his arm on the ground with the weights and says he doesn't want to play anymore, calling the system a scammer and asking it to stop. More notifications appear saying that the fast growth package isn't over yet, so it's impossible to remove it. The protagonist gets angry. The system then says it suggests that he gets used to it, because if he doesn't, he'll crawl to school like this tomorrow. After the host completes the progress of the fast growth package, he will gain 25 skill points. Xiu calms down, knowing that he can earn 25 skill points. He asks if it's just crawling, as before learning to walk, he had to learn to crawl. The next day at the academy, the protagonist walks and says he crawled all night, barely able to get up and walk. He did a few laps, but it seems he's on the 19th lap, although there's still a long way to go. The fast growth package is still at 1,010,000ths. Then, someone taps his back, and he falls to the ground. He turns around angrily, asking who it is, and why they pushed him from behind. Shuang looks embarrassed and asks if he's okay, wondering if he's sick. Feeling awkward, sitting on the ground, he says he's fine, just distracted, and didn't notice. With his hand on her head, he says it's been 2 years since they last saw each other, since the end of high school, and tells her she has become a beautiful young lady, asking what brought her there. She replies that the exams are soon, so some professors brought them to visit a few universities to see which ones they like. Xiu asks if she decided to enroll in the academy since they study there. Shuang tells him to stop dreaming, saying she didn't enroll in this school because of him. Just then, a voice approaches and asks her if this was her neighbor. As it gets closer, the person says they heard that the worst trash in the academy is also named Lin Xu, asking if it's the same person. The girl gets irritated and asks what he's trying to say. Tang says he just wanted to practice a little with the senior, who is 2 years older than him, and now considers him his opponent. Shuang pulls on the sleeve of her shirt, saying she'll practice with him. The bully says he doesn't want to win against her, asking if her neighbor is scared and telling him not to be a coward. Xu laughs and says, "Sure, since he's asking to get beaten, I'll grant his wish," thinking that, even though his body is carrying an extra 200 kilograms, dealing with a spoiled brat is no problem. Tang takes his position, and Xu tells him he can come closer. Then, the spoiled brat rushes at him, trying to attack, but Xu blocks and throws him to the ground. Tang says he's not bad, and tells Xu to try this, using the bronze martial technique. He charges again to attack, touching Xu's chest. Xu thinks it was fast, but if he were in his normal condition, he could easily dodge. However, with the 200 kilograms on him, he can't avoid the hit. Tang continues attacking. The people watching say Tang will win, and the girl is confident Xu won't lose. The spoiled brat notices he's not making progress and thinks he needs to push him back, but can't. He needs to defeat him in front of Shuang. The onlookers keep watching as Tang continues attacking. He lands a punch on Xu's chest, but Xu grabs it and asks if he knew that if you want to defeat someone, you have to be willing to be defeated. Tang, out of breath, asks Xu to wait. Xu says that as his senior he has to teach him a lesson, so he breaks Tang's hand. Tang screams in pain, kneeling on the ground and complaining about his hand. But the protagonist hits him again with a kick to the mouth, sending the spoiled brat flying. Tang's friends rush to him, asking if he's okay. The boy, sitting on the ground with his face covered in wounds, says he'll defeat Xu. Xu walks forward and tells him to come. But then he notices something strange. He's sent flying by a single punch from Tian. The protagonist gets up, and Tang shouts for his brother to break Xu's 4 limbs. Xu realizes it's the veteran, ranked in the top 100 of the school's ranking. The boy clenches his fist to throw a punch and says that since Xu broke his brother's fist, he'll take care of Xu's 4 limbs. Xu thinks to himself that he's carrying over 100 kilograms and can't dodge at all. He's then thrown to the ground by a punch. Shuang steps in front and tells Tian to stop, saying she won't let him hurt Xu. Tian asks where this spoiled girl came from and tells her to screw off, trying to punch her in the face. But the protagonist defends her, pushing her away to avoid the punch, and the punch hits him in the chest, injuring him and making him fall to the ground. Tian says that Xu is still trying to save the girl, even though he's about to be defeated, and approaches, saying he's going to fix him, climbing on top of him and attacking again, saying that now it's the other hand, and not only will he fix him, but he'll also turn him into useless trash. A voice approaches to stop them. The professor rushes towards them, but Tian continues attacking. The professor uses his skills and thinks to himself that all members of the Tang family are despicable and wonders how they dare to maim someone in front of him. He then separates them and asks what Tian is doing. Tian, embarrassed, says that Xu broke his little brother's fist. Shuang replies that Tang requested a duel, and during the fight, he used a fatal move. She adds that it seems like Tang wanted to eliminate Xu. The professor says that the school will discuss who is right or wrong. Tian steps back and says that Xu escaped today, but he won't be able to hide forever. The protagonist tells him not to worry, and that in 3 days, he wants a martial arts duel against him. The professor tells him to stop being an idiot, as Tian is no match for him, and a martial arts duel is a life-or-death battle that will defeat him. Shuang tells him not to do it, but Xu responds not to worry, asking if Tian accepts the challenge. Tian replies that if Xu will be his opponent, then why would he be afraid, and that when the time comes, he will fix him in front of everyone. People at the academy start talking, saying Xu wants to have a duel with Tian, who is in the top 100 of the school's ranking, and that Xu will be beaten to the ground and defeated. In the classroom, they also comment that Xu will be eliminated, and that all of this is because of a girl. In the medical ward, the doctor asks him to remove his clothes so she can examine his whole body. He replies that only his left arm is broken, and that a full checkup isn't necessary. He asks what medicine she used on his hand, as the effect is so good. She tells him that it's medicine from the Xiao family, which helps regenerate bones, and warns him to be careful when entering the life-or-death duel, as the Tang family is very influential, and he cannot offend them. The protagonist replies that it was they who provoked him, asking if she wants him to just back down and take the punches. The nurse says she knows he's strong and hands him a card. Xu is happy to receive the bronze-level martial arts technique card and asks if she's really giving it to him and if it's not too expensive. The doctor answers that it's free because she got it from the library while her fist was shattered. She adds that the punch technique can produce a powerful air blast and is one of the most fierce combat techniques. However, if the body isn't strong enough when using it, the cultivator's arm can explode. She takes a bottle in her hand and says that with the Xiao family's medicine, bone and muscle damage won't be a problem, and it will help him practice the punch technique quickly. The protagonist thanks her. The nurse approaches and says she'll take care of him and not let him be eliminated easily. At dusk, Xu is training and thinks that he heard the technique causes internal damage to the opponent, destroying their organs, but at his current level, he can only inflict external damage. However, thanks to the medicine, he manages to master the technique in 3 days. Soon, a notification pops up saying that the host has reached level 11. Xu thinks that with these points, he can become even stronger. It seems the pace of the fast growth package isn't enough, though. He's already used to the extra weight, but his combat ability has dropped to 80%. Tired from training, he thinks that tonight he needs to compete in the martial arts duel, so he will go back to take a bath and prepare for the fight. In the martial arts arena, the presenter announces that the first duel of the year is about to begin and introduces the 2 students in the arena. The 2 stare at each other in the arena, and the crowd shouts for Tian. Professor Jiang tells Professor Luo not to worry, as he has warned his student to take it easy and not eliminate Xu. Professor Luo replies that they still don't know who will win. The presenter announces that the battle will begin. Tian asks if Xu is going to kneel and beg for mercy. Xu replies that when he surrenders, he won't show any mercy either. The bully says that if Xu is looking for the end, he'll make sure he gets eliminated, using his blood seal technique. The presenter says it's unexpected, as Tian used a lethal blow right away. Xu blocks the strike, but he's injured. With his hand on his neck, Xu asks, "Is this the power of the sword?" The bully responds that now he understands Xu can't block his sword, and attacks again with it. Xu blocks the strikes, but is severely injured. Yang asks what to do, as Xu seems completely dominated. Zhang says not to worry, as Tian won't cause much damage to him. Tian notices that all his movements are being blocked by Xu, and the power he's unleashing with his sword isn't enough to inflict serious damage. He says he'll see how Xu blocks this one. Xu realizes this attack is too strong for him to block, as his buildup is still incomplete. He can only use one move, but wanted to keep it hidden as a trump card. However, he uses the move, releasing several flames. The professor is surprised, wondering if he learned a cultivation technique so quickly. Tian and Xu attack simultaneously, causing a massive explosion. Xu is thrown back. The bully stares at him and says that he was able to force Xu this much, so he should feel honored to have been defeated by him. People watch anxiously, calling out for Xu. Getting up, he tells them not to worry, as he's fine. Notifications arrive, telling him that the growth package is complete and that he earned points. Xu, a bit dazed and with his hand on his head, sees another notification asking if he wants to use the full force attack. He takes off his cold weather jacket and tells the system to add the skill points to strength and physique. Yang asks why Xu is dressed like that, and the professor replies that they are protective training weights for the wrists, legs, and torso. Tian asks how he'd be without the weights, and Xu removes them, tossing them onto the ground. Yang notices the weights are heavy. Xu says that was just a warm-up, as the real battle is about to begin. The bully gets furious, thinking he's been made a fool of from the start, and charges at Xu, saying he'll make him pay for his arrogance. He attacks, but doesn't even scratch Xu. He's shocked, while Xu retaliates with his spear. Tian thinks Xu's strength has increased again, wondering if it's because he took off the weights, while his sword starts to crack. Xu says he felt great attacking until recently, but now it's his turn. The bully replies that he's not afraid. The professor remarks that after removing the weights, Xu seems like a completely different person, and Yang cheers for him. Yuan looks worried. Xu uses the full force attack, generating several flames. Tian says it can't be, that someone like Xu can't possibly master such a powerful martial technique. But the protagonist's skill continues to shine. The bully puts his sword in front of him, but it breaks, and he is thrown back. After hitting the ground, Xu approaches, while the announcer asks if Tian has been defeated, and if the weakest student has beaten the top 100 student. Tian has a badly injured hand. He gets up, telling Xu not to think he's been defeated, as he won't lose. He then removes the top part of his outfit, revealing his toned arm muscles and abs, huge muscles. Xu wonders if he's turning into the Hulk, and asks if Tian is taking banned steroids. Tian says he wants to eliminate Xu, and then attacks with the crushing fist technique, striking the ground with such force that it causes an enormous impact. Xu approaches with his spear to attack, but the bully grabs it with ease, saying that today is Xu's end. He kicks him and throws him far, causing Xu to fall hard to the ground, injuring him. As Tian approaches with the spear, Xu, alert, uses his shattering fists technique and attacks, creating a massive explosion. The protagonist is thrown back. The professor watches and says that the bully used Alphys just to defeat Shu. Yang asks what that is, and the professor explains that when the Federation soldiers fought zombies, a drug was created to enhance a combatant's strength for a short period by forcibly absorbing energy to boost their physical strength. However, it damages the bones and muscles of the user, with a severe side effect. It will leave them maimed for the rest of their life. Yang asks if Tian is crazy, willing to become crippled. The professor says that because Tian used a forbidden drug, the fight should be stopped. The announcer is unsure of what to do. Jiang says that there is no rule in the school that prohibits the use of Alphys during the battle. The announcer agrees that Jiang is right, and announces that the fight will continue. Professor Jiang is satisfied, but Professor Luo notices something. Observing that Bai, the patriarch of the Tang family, is there, he wonders if the school is trying to please him and if he will do nothing while Xu is eliminated. Tian continues attacking, throwing Xu away again, saying that without the weapon, Xu is no match for him, and that his crushing fist technique is one of the most powerful attacks. Xu, lying on the ground, gets up and asks what made Tian think that he can only use a spear. He then activates the Fury Discharge ability, moving toward Tian quickly. The bully says he's underestimating him, and they face off, fighting hand to hand. The onlookers wonder if Tian, having used the forbidden drug, shouldn't be at an advantage. Angrily, Tian thinks that he forced Xu to take steroids, and yet he can't stop him. Xu notices that after removing the weights, his potential has increased, and he feels his shattering fists becoming stronger. The bully says his punch technique is more powerful, and Xu thinks he's about to show his true technique. The two face each other, and Xu attacks. Tian says his skin is resistant, and questions if Xu's weak punch will even cause any damage. Xu responds, asking what the problem is with being resistant, as he's attacking the internal organs, causing Tian to scream in pain. The people in the stands recognize the technique and wonder if Xu should have been eliminated or lost both his arms. Kneeling on the ground with his injured arm, Tian wonders how Xu mastered this technique in just 3 days. Xu replies that this is the reality and that he won. But the bully doesn't give up and charges at him again, attempting to attack. Xu blocks and says that since Tian wants to be eliminated, he will grant his wish. Suddenly, someone uses their power and throws Xu far away without touching him. The professor and students rush over, concerned, asking if Xu is okay. Bai says, "How dare you try to eliminate someone from the Tang family?" Xu responds that the Tang family members rely on the help of other family members, and asks, even if it's a martial arts battle, the professor explains that both parties signed an agreement before the fight. Bai says he'll remember the boy. Xu just watches. The announcer declares that Xu is the winner of this battle and is now ranked in the top 100 for power in the school. The next day, someone knocks on Xu's door, asking how long he's going to sleep. As it's already nearly 11 a.m., Xu responds that he's getting up. He opens the door and asks the professor what happened and why he's in such a hurry, as he's very tired after last night's fight. Luo says he has good and bad news and asks which one Xu wants to hear first. Xu says he'll listen to the bad news first. The professor enters the room and tells him that the school wants to punish him. Xu asks why he's the only one being punished. Luo explains that the Tang family is one of the main shareholders of the academy, and this time, Ping had his wrist destroyed, and Tian almost got eliminated by Xu. For high-status people like them, this is a huge and ridiculous humiliation. Since Tian consumed drugs during the martial arts battle in front of everyone, the Tang family can't say anything about the fight, so they used it as an excuse to claim bullying, pressuring the school and asking for a punishment. Xu clenches his fists and curses them, asking what the punishment is. Luo responds that the punishment is to go with the soldiers and participate in the annual extermination operation at the Shining Fortress, explaining the location and that the battle caused a nuclear accident, turning humans and soldiers into mutants, creating an endless horde that threatens the surrounding areas. The city organizes an operation with soldiers every year. Xu wonders if this will make the zombies and beasts even stronger and more numerous, creating a wave of XP. Xu agrees to go, and the professor warns him that it's no joke, with a defeat rate higher than 70%. However, he reassures Xu that he will help reduce the punishment. Xu says he's made his decision and asks what the good news is. Luo stands there with his mouth agape, then puts his hand inside his shirt, saying that he had almost forgotten. He congratulates Xu for making it into the top 100 in the power ranking, and that the reward is a flux of the explosive storm lance. Xu is happy, saying it's a silver martial technique and thanks him. The professor explains that this was the last technique created by Rui, capable of attacking 100 times in just 1 second, which is how it got its name. Not everyone can master it. Xu imagines how incredible it will be to attack 100 times in a second. Luo pats him on the shoulder, saying that he's improved very quickly and has great potential. He stresses that Xu must survive the operation and come back alive. Xu reassures him, saying he'll definitely return alive. As Xu walks away, he thinks that the last battle damaged his clothes, so he'll need to spend some money to buy a new set. He wonders if the military will provide clothes. Suddenly, something approaches, trying to attack him, but he's faster and dodges, crouching down, and asks who's there. A group approaches, complimenting him, saying they didn't expect much, and still can't believe he's not a full-fledged martial artist. Xu thinks that they're all rank 1 martial artists, wondering if they're here to give him XP. He asks if they dare touch him, as this is a part of the city. The bald one says, "What's the problem? We're in the city. If we do it quickly and cleanly, no one will ever know." The bald man attacks, using the ability Piercing Gale Pursuer, and Xu responds, saying that they must be confident they can defeat him. He activates Shattering Fist, injuring the bald man's arm, and he screams in pain. Xu tells him that if he wants to eliminate someone, he must be ready to be eliminated himself. He prepares to attack, but the bald man begs him to wait and try to resolve things through conversation. Without hesitation, Xu continues, landing a punch that knocks the bald man to the ground. Notifications arrive, showing XP gains, and the rest of the group is shocked, realizing that Xu defeated the bald man with just 1 punch. The bald man urges them to attack together, and they charge at Xu. He's quick, and in the blink of an eye, defeats 2 of them with a single blow, earning more XP. The remaining 2 are terrified, saying Xu is too strong, and they flee as fast as they can. Xu thinks that they ran off quickly and wonders who sent them to eliminate him. He believes it could have been the Tang family. Elsewhere, someone is furious, throwing things around. An angry woman appears, saying that 5 rank 1 martial artists ambushed an apprentice martial artist, and that 3 of them were eliminated. The men kneel, apologizing, saying they never expected the kid to be so strong, as he defeated them with just a few punches. The lady asks how they dared try to defeat someone in the city, wondering if they're trying to ruin the Tang family's reputation. Bai enters and tells them to leave. He asks the lady if she thinks no one will figure out what happened if she handles it this way. He tells her that if she hadn't had them clean up the bodies quickly, the investigation unit would have easily figured out they were responsible. The lady responds that she can't stand to see her 2 sons being humiliated, and begins to say various unnecessary things. The madame keeps saying that it was because of Xu that her son was forced to train on the path of the end. Bai says that he himself caused it, as he knew the drug would have consequences and still chose to use it. He adds that there's no need to worry about it anymore, as he has already pressured the school to punish him. The place has a 70% mortality rate, and he wouldn't care if it increased. The next day, the soldiers are all gathered, doing a roll call. Ouyang asks if he is Xu. He responds that he is, and notices that this soldier is another martial artist who cannot be analyzed by the analyzer eye. Ouyang says it's better for everyone to stay alert and be prepared, hoping that everyone survives this mission. The big guy asks if the protagonist got lost and ended up in the wrong place. The leader tells everyone to shut up because this time, Starshine City will change 4 teams, with a total of 40 participants who joined the hunt. The big guy points to Xu and says it's 39 martial artists, because the small one next to him doesn't look like one, and people laugh at his joke. The leader tells him, and those who laugh to step forward, bow, and pay 100. In position, they respond, yes. The leader approaches the protagonist and says that, regardless of whether he is a student from the academy, since he is participating in the mission, they are both the same, telling him to always be prepared. In position, the protagonist responds yes as well. The leader says the rest should get their equipment ready because they will leave in 15 minutes. The transport plane leaves the location. Meanwhile, in the training cabin, the soldiers are training. A girl approaches and asks if he is a student of the academy, as her name is Li, and she graduated from the academy, saying he can count on her. Sitting on the floor, Xu just observes. The girl sits next to him and says that he is just a student who hasn't graduated, asking why he's being sent with them, as it's dangerous. The protagonist sighs and responds that it's a punishment from the school. Li becomes curious to know more until cans of Coca-Cola are thrown at her, and she faces the big guy, saying that since she's a newbie, she should be training, not talking to her friend. The girl says that he's her junior, and she's just warning him not to overstep. The bully says she's only been here for a few days and is already arrogant, and that he doesn't need her interfering with his business. He squats down and asks what's in the box, wondering if it's some kind of treasure, asking her to let him take a look. But the protagonist places his hand on the box and asks if his parents didn't teach him not to touch other people's things. The big guy says that he's arrogant. His buddies say they should take a look at the treasure the kid has in the box, and that the boy is arrogant, and they're going to teach him a lesson. Shu, still with his hand on the box, asks if he's ever heard that curiosity killed the cat. The big guy pulls the box and tells him to shut up. When he grabs it, he notices it's quite heavy. The protagonist gets up, opens the box with his foot, takes his spear out, grabs it, and aims it at him. Jin gets angry and Shu says he forgot to mention that his silver soul needs to see injuries when it's used, touching Jin's throat, saying that a rank 1 martial artist doesn't seem like much. Jin, with his hand on his neck, asks what he said. The protagonist responds that he said he's fucking trash. The big guy grinds his teeth in anger and tries to strike him, saying that Shu wants to be eliminated. However, Shu strikes him first in the face and says that he's too slow. Jin falls to the ground and runs to try to attack him again, until a voice yells at him to stop, asking if he's picking on the newbies again. The blonde guy approaches and says that the kid took him down in one punch. The leader says that a rank 1 martial artist was knocked out by a student who hasn't even been officially recognized, asking if he isn't ashamed. He adds that if it were him, he would think about the best way to stay alive. At the Light Fortress, the other 3 squad leaders are heading to the central area of the fortress to deal with more threatening beasts. The leader says the rest of them will operate in 4 groups of 10 and infiltrate the south. Shu asks if she has been here before. Lee answers no, and that she only joined them a year ago. Jin says he hopes the protagonist can keep this long life. Shu tells him not to worry, because he will, and wonders if trash like him, who can't even beat a student, will be able to see the light of the next day. A girl approaches, telling Jin to shut up and put aside his prejudices, not wanting their disunity to put the other members in danger, saying they should go. As they walk, a voice shouts, "Zombies!" A terrifying zombie approaches. Wen moves forward to attack, saying that they are 10 people tasked with eliminating evolved beasts and zombies from the city. Jin says they are just a few first-level zombies and that this mission isn't that hard. She responds that it's only the outskirts of the city, as the higher-level zombies and evolved beasts are closer to the city center. The 10 soldiers walk and notice something's wrong, coming face-to-face with several second-level zombies. Jin says more idiots have appeared, approaching with his weapon to attack them. The zombie runs towards him too, and he realizes it's quite fast. He underestimated it, but suddenly, the zombie is defeated by Zhu with his spear. The big guy thanks him for the help. The protagonist runs to attack more, as the second-level zombies are giving a lot of experience. Several zombies approach, and he fights them, defeating them. The soldiers observe, and Lee asks if he's not an official warrior, as he seems stronger than them. The big guy, indignant, sees that the spear, which he couldn't hold with both hands, the kid is handling easily. Wen tells them not to just stand there, as these are second-level zombies and they need to be careful. Then, they run to attack too. Wen fights them, and the other 2 join in. Then they hear a strange noise and are confused, until Shu says the zombie boss is calling for more of them. They get scared. The zombies approach them to attack. Wen, with her weapon in hand, tells them to stay calm and not panic. Everyone with weapons in hand starts shooting at the zombies, but there are too many. Even so, they keep shooting. Shu gains experience points for defeating a few, showing his stats and noticing that his strength and speed have increased. More notifications come in saying that his combat power has increased, and he received the title of Level 1 Warrior, thinking, this is great, and that the Fury energy can only be used 3 times a day, with an 8-hour cooldown. The soldiers keep attacking the zombies. Wen says to prepare for close combat. Then, she takes out her sword and uses the martial skill, Void Slash. Everyone then says to attack. Shu goes ahead, laughing. The others find it strange, but he runs and attacks them. However, the blonde guy notices more zombies appearing behind them, and there are many. Wen says the number of zombies is huge, and they can't be surrounded, asking them to run. They find a building and tell everyone to take shelter there. While heading to the building, they keep shooting at the zombies. They enter the building. Lee tells the captain and Shu to go quickly because there's a security door that can still be closed. Wen responds that if they run, they won't manage to close the door in time and tells Shu to go first, as she will hold off the zombies. The protagonist pushes her towards the door. She is confused, and he says that he doesn't have the habit of letting women protect him. The captain calls for him, but Jin grabs her arm, pulling her. Wen tells her to let go as the kid is in danger. The big guy asks her to look, and Shu is handling the zombies very well. He uses his martial skill, the 100 birds meeting the phoenix, causing several flames, and the zombies are burned, creating a massive explosion. They watch, mouths agape, asking what technique that is, so strong. Jin tells the kid to get inside quickly. The protagonist enters, and as they go to close the gate, he notices it's heavy, but they manage to close it. Then a strange noise starts, with zombies banging on the gate. Wen says there are too many zombies, and the gate won't hold. The soldier says that the second-floor staircase has a very thick iron door, and the place is narrow, good for defense. The gate is very weakened and being broken, and several zombies approach. Xiu says the gate is too weak, and the captain tells them to go upstairs. The zombies approach quickly, and they run, closing the iron gate behind them. The zombies keep trying to get in. Wen tells them to go up first, check, and eliminate any necessary dangers. They go up, and Li notices something strange. She comes across a mummy and several spider webs in the area. She says it's impossible for it to be a mutant spider staring intently, but something falls onto her back. Jin removes it with his weapon, revealing a spider. The protagonist says it's a level 1 black spider. The big guy says Li has a coffin mouth because whatever she says happens, and one says it looks like they've found a spider nest. The blonde guy tells them to look, and several spiders approach. Wen says they should run to the 3rd floor. When they get there, they encounter more spiders, and several of them come closer. Using her skill, she tells them to go up, still trying to defend. Xiu says the building has 4 floors, and the staircase can lead to the rooftop, asking them to go there. Then, they attack, driving the spiders away and heading for the rooftop. Li closes the door and says she's dying of exhaustion, and the captain tells them to recharge and rest for a bit, since the zombies should disperse on their own. The protagonist observes and Wen approaches, saying there are many zombies around the building. Then, they spot a level 2 sharp-toothed dog, and there are several of them, starting to attack the zombies. The soldiers are confused, as the dogs and the zombies are fighting in a group brawl. They keep watching. Wen says the zombies on the 1st floor must have been drawn outside, so now is their chance to leave. While the protagonist wonders why the evolved beasts are attacking the zombies, the captain tells everyone to organize their equipment to prepare to go down. Li asks if they're just going to leave like this, and she responds that first. They'll get out of the encirclement, then reorganize outside and continue with the extermination mission. They go down and notice the presence of a few, so they chase after them and quietly eliminate them. Xiu observes and says they are safe. Then, they run while the zombies and dogs are still fighting. However, they stop, and the dogs notice their presence but think they haven't been discovered until one dog approaches, trying to attack. The protagonist manages to defeat it. Wen attacks another dog with her void slash, and the other soldiers attack it too. Jin asks if they're done, but Xiu notices a level 3 dog approaching with a zombie in its mouth. Wen says that's their leader, and the protagonist confirms. Then, the leader throws the zombie away, and Xiu tells them to be careful, as the dog is heading toward a soldier, wondering why it's faster than the previous dogs. The leader attacks, and Xiu tells the soldier to move away, as its attack didn't even make a scratch, realizing that the dog is very resistant. Then, the leader bites the soldier's arm, causing an extremely severe wound. Wen gets angry and uses her void slash, but the leader dodges and approaches her. However, with his spear, Xiu attacks, causing some injuries. Wen thanks him, and Xiu says the dog has tough skin and firm flesh, with very strong defense. He continues attacking the dog with his spear several times, but the dog keeps withstanding. Xiu then uses the accumulated strike, holding the spear firmly and defeating the dog. The soldiers are happy he succeeded. The strike causes a huge explosion, and the protagonist says the dog wasn't eliminated, thinking that he still hasn't received the system notification. Then, the leader rises, injured, using a bloodlust technique. It's a furious strike surrounded by an aura, as it's a special skill of the leader. However, Xiu thinks he didn't imagine the evolved beasts would have such a powerful ability. Telling them to get away, suddenly a very strong explosion happens, throwing the protagonist into the wall. He starts coughing and says that even though he retreated quickly, he still got hurt. But fortunately, he received the system notification. Otherwise, he would already be eliminated. The soldiers stand up, and the dog approaches, jumping near them. Xiu asks if more are coming, and attacks it with his skill, causing a very strong explosion. The protagonist screams, and a notification arrives saying that the dog was eliminated. Xiu feels relieved, and the soldiers are surprised that he managed to eliminate a rank 3 beast. But then they notice something different. They encounter a giant monster approaching along with the zombie leader. Xiu says that the scream that caused the zombie siege must have come from him. The leader approaches the dog, puts his hand inside it, rips out its core, and swallows it, looking satisfied. The soldiers watch, confused. Then, the protagonist observes with his analyzer eye that the zombie has evolved to level 3. Wen asks if it can evolve. Xiu runs, and says they need to stop him before he finishes evolving. The zombie emits an extremely loud sound. They stop and see several zombies approaching. The captain says they are surrounded. The protagonist asks Wen to hold off the zombies because he will deal with the leader, as only by eliminating him can they disperse the zombie order. Wen tells him to be careful. Then, Xu approaches the leader and attacks with his spear, but its skin is tougher than the dog's, probably because of the core he swallowed. Xu then tries to attack with his gill while the zombies approach. Xu realizes that his accumulated strike is exhausted since it consumes a lot of energy. He needs to find a way to deal with these zombies. He grabs a card in his hand and thinks that, as a level 1 warrior, he should be able to master the technique of this martial arts card. Trying to use it, the soldiers watch and ask if he's crazy for trying to learn a technique now, with the zombies about to attack. He uses the silver martial art technique, launching them away, but says he was only able to perform 3 attacks, which is still too little. He tells himself to try again, and does so, but only manages 3 attacks, which isn't enough. He then manages 4 attacks, but it's still not enough. Jin says that not only does he learn martial arts skills in battle, but he understands them quickly. Wen responds that martial arts skills are improved through constant battles, and maybe it's because of his obsession and determination that he has such strong willpower at his age. He says they can't be outdone by a student, asking them to go all out. Even though they can't compete with this monster, they can't fall behind. Xu continues attacking the zombies and says that 5 attacks are his limit with the spear for now. He says he's already emptied all the flasks, and now it's the leader's turn. Using the skill, the leader tries to defend, causing an explosion, but the zombie remains intact because he completed his evolution. The protagonist says that although the strength isn't as great as that of a level 3 dog, this special skill is annoying because the leader's skin is extremely tough. Using his analyzer eye, he observes that the zombie leader has evolved and says that he has no choice but to go all out. The zombie and he face off, and Xu attacks him with his spear, delivering several strikes. He says that if he doesn't defeat him quickly, the leader will keep calling more zombies. With no other choice, he tries the Fury Strike, taking on a terrifying aura. The soldiers are impressed by his aura, and Xu says that while the leader withstood the normal version of the rain, now he'll see him deal with the Fury version. Still attacking, the leader starts retreating, and Xu says it's working. Thinking that, entering a Fury state with improved abilities, he feels like he and the spear are one. Then, he uses his supreme skill with the spear, causing a storm-like explosion of petals. Wen, indignant, says that although it's just 1 strike, it's more than twice as strong as the 5 previous rapid strikes. An explosion is heard, and a notification arrives saying that he has eliminated the leader and leveled up to level 13, adding 13 strength points to his power. With his last effort, he finishes eliminating the rest of the zombies. Then, he strikes again, and several notifications arrive, saying that he has defeated them, showing the zombies lying on the ground. Jin comments that it's been a long time since he fought so intensely, and Li says that if it weren't for Xu, they would all be eliminated by now, and thanks him. The protagonist replies that now they are all battle brothers. Wen asks if he used any medicine, as his strength suddenly increased. Xu says not to worry, he didn't take any medicine and that it was just one of his abilities. Wen says that during the fight, she was only able to inflict a few wounds on him, asking how his last strike was so strong. He replies that he doesn't know, but at that moment, he felt as if he became one with the spear. The captain asks if he has comprehended a supreme skill, and he is curious to know more. She explains that it is when you train and understand a technique so deeply that you can unleash its maximum power, and even the most basic skill can become as powerful as a silver skill if you comprehend the supreme skill. However, reaching a supreme skill is not easy, as it requires a deep understanding of the technique and a bit of luck. Hundreds of people train the same technique, but only a few will reach the supreme skill. Xu says that it's incredible because if he truly comprehended the supreme skill, then he can use a power comparable to a supreme skill. The captain says that it's already getting dark, so they will spend the night on the roof of the building. At nightfall, they sit around the campfire, roasting the meat of the level 3 dog. The protagonist finds the meat delicious, and one says that he has no experience with expeditions, but the meat from these evolved beasts is tasty, and not contaminated or infected. Xu asks if the captain has ever heard of the sanctuary. She responds that he's probably referring to the Sanctuary Academy, and explains that it's a warrior academy that surpasses the 5 major academies, being the strongest of them all. The protagonist asks if the sanctuary is a university, and Wen says that the minimum requirement to enter is for a student to be at level 2 as a warrior. The blonde complains, saying that he is still at level 1. Xu remembers Luo and thinks that it's nothing. With the system, reaching level 2 is just a matter of time for him, and he can't wait to become a warrior and see the girl's expression. The soldiers walk, and the captain says that they need to clear the rest of the zombies and evolved beasts because they are truly finished. Lee points and asks what that is, seeing beasts crawling on the wall. With his analyzer eye, the protagonist identifies them as rank 2 zombies. He says they're good at scaling rooftops. The big guy says that they're crawling like snails. They start shooting, and Shu asks them not to shoot recklessly. The shot almost hits the zombie, but it manages to dodge. Jin says that it barely avoided being hit in the vital spots. The protagonist responds that they are faster than they appear. Lin asks, if they are so fast, why do their movements seem slow? He answers that it's probably so their prey lowers their guard. The zombies notice their presence and approach. The captain asks them to be on guard and the zombies run quickly. They keep shooting with their weapons, but as the zombies get closer, Wen orders them to eliminate them with their blades. She attacks with her strike, and the soldiers continue attacking. Suddenly, a zombie appears behind the blonde and attacks him. The captain calls his name and says that they are coming from above. They begin fighting non-stop. Xu tries to dodge and tells the captain that he suggests they retreat to an area with enclosed spaces so they can't be reached from the higher ground they have. She responds that it's a good idea and tells everyone to run and regroup in the area they passed through before. Still running, they stop in a forest and find themselves surrounded by zombies. The captain says that, if they don't want to be eliminated, now is the time to take a stand. They then run to attack. After a while of fighting, they manage to defeat them. Jin says that he can't believe they managed to eliminate so many zombies, and Lee says that she's sure that this is their last group. Tired, the protagonist drinks some water. Out of breath, he thinks that it was very exhausting, and if it weren't for the experience, he wouldn't even be bothering with it. Suddenly, an attack comes out of nowhere, but he blocks it and begins to retaliate, facing a boy who says that his reaction time is impressive. Xu asks who he is, and the boy responds that there's no need for someone on the verge of collapse to know his name. Wen asks what he's playing at, and if he dares lay a finger on a soldier of the Federation. The boy says that the protagonist is his target and that she has nothing to do with it, so she should get out of the way if she wants to live. The captain responds that he is a soldier of the Federation, and his act of aggression means he's antagonized the rest of the squad. The boy says she will be eliminated, shouting. She gets into an attack position, and the two begin to fight, causing an explosion that throws her back. The rest of the soldiers are concerned and ask how he dares lay a finger on their leader. The boy uses his ability, high-speed whirlwind. The soldiers are frightened by the aura. The protagonist observes and starts running. The boy calls him a coward, saying that he abandoned his comrades and ran, asking if he thinks he can escape him. He chases after Xu. Lin asks if this is ever going to end. Wen stands up and says they can't leave Xu alone with him. Jin asks what they're doing there, and if they can't do more since Xu is dominating the fight to avoid involving them. The captain grabs her sword and says it won't be solved if they just stand there, and that anyone who dares lay a finger on their squadmates will pay. The boy jumps in front of the protagonist and asks where he thinks he's going. Xu asks who said he was going to run away, and since there's no one to bother them, they can finish this. The boy, enraged, says that he's going to be eliminated, shouting. The protagonist asks if he was sent by the Tang family. The tough guy asks, so what? What if I return to the Tang family? Does it matter to anyone that I'll be eliminated soon? He replies that he's right about understanding the situation, but before that, he's going to teach him a short but useful lesson, attacking him with his spear. The boy thinks he was so fast and attacks, but Xu dodges, thinking that this flash of fighting spirit and bloodlust from the boy is enough to give him chills. He notices that the dodge was very unusual, wondering if it's some kind of rare skill. The protagonist grabs his spear, while the tough guy grabs his weapon, and they begin attacking each other. The boy tries to land a hit, but Xu dodges and attacks with his spear. However, both are quite agile and manage to dodge each other's attacks. The boy says that he didn't expect this and that Xu isn't so bad, but still not good enough. Then, he jumps and begins attacking with multiple blades. The protagonist thinks that there were so many attacks in one moment that he remembers his own ability, but some of them are illusions. Not all of them are real. The boy says that he's going to show what it's like to have power beyond measure, causing an extremely strong aura, followed by an explosion, going directly to attack the boy. But the boy uses his ability and attacks, pushing him into the wall and holding him there. He says that it's over for Xu. Xu responds that it's fine, satisfied. The boy steps back, shocked, because his abdomen has a severe wound, and says it's impossible since he knows he dodged 4 of the strikes. The protagonist responds that he always knew the boy was there from the start, thinking that the system notifies him, and it's not like he can turn it off. Pressed against the wall, he says that he's always been able to push up to 5 times and saves the last one just for himself. The boy says that's quite discreet, but is interrupted by Xu, who attacks him with his spear. A notification appears saying that he has eliminated a martial artist, and the system congratulates him for leveling up. Xiu asks the system to put 10 points into physics and 4 into strength, thinking that even though he recovered from leveling up, his injuries aren't fully healed. Then, he thinks that it's better to find a way to heal himself. Voices call his name, and the soldiers approach, asking if he's okay. Xiu thinks they are brave, as even though he's a level 3 martial artist, they still came after him. He then falls face first onto the ground. As night falls, they are on the rooftop with a barbecue and a cabin. The protagonist is inside the cabin lying down, and when he opens his eyes, he sits up and exits. Wen says he finally woke up and asks if he's okay. Xiu responds that it's just a flesh wound and thanks them. Li says she can't believe he defeated a level 3 martial artist, and that he was a criminal who broke the law and has a warrant out for his arrest by Starlight. Li bets that he would be well paid for handing over the criminal's head. The captain says that if he's badly injured, even though first aid was applied, he will need at least one more day of rest before he's back to perfect form. After that, they present several defeated zombies. A month later, they've finished defeating the zombies, and Jin says he's sure they've been to hell and back. He sighs deeply and wonders who the lucky winner of the lottery would be to end up as the chicken dinner. Wen says that without Xiu with them, they wouldn't have had a chance. Li approaches the protagonist and says that, as his senior, she's so proud. Jin says that if he needs him, he'll be there. A voice asks if they're from the Alliance, and a group approaches, with a young man saying that now he remembers it's the annual zombie and evolved beast cleaning operation. He says they've made good profits there, and it would be a shame if anything happened to their masters. The captain says he knows they're soldiers of the Alliance and asks if, despite that, they're still trying to rob them. Using his analytical eye, Xiu identifies everyone and tells Wen to step back, as there's a level 3 martial artist among them. Zhou, the leader, tells Xiu to shut up and says they're getting on his nerves. The protagonist notices he's approaching his direction. Zhou points his sword and says this is between the two of them, and he'll leave the rest to them. The captain asks if he's a lone wolf. The soldiers are startled, and Wen says that in a fight, many of their comrades were defeated by him. They know they're from the Alliance, and they dare make a move. Zhou says that if he sees people like her, he will cut her down. So that's the kind of person he is. The captain says she will eliminate him, but Xiu holds her back and says the redhead is his. He asks if the Tang family sent him here and says that this never ends. He also asks if the other guy couldn't defeat him. What chance does this guy have? Zhou says he shouldn't be compared to people like him, as both of them are in third place. Smashing his sword on the ground with an enormous aura, he says he can go even further. The ground cracks, and Xiu thinks that this sword seems very heavy and is getting bigger every second. They begin to fight, and the captain tells them to be quick, as Xiu is waiting for them. Then, they attack the group together. The protagonist uses his torrential flower ability, but the redhead dodges with his sword and says that Xiu can't hurt him unless he puts in 10 times more effort per second. He then says he will show them what true martial skill is. Using the ability Silver and Crescent Dark Moon, Xiu thinks that this strike was very strong, and at this rate, he'll end up being eliminated. He then uses his rage ability, and an explosion occurs. The captain watches and is concerned about him. Jin asks the protagonist to respond. Zhou says he was completely blown up. His shadow appears in the smoke, and Xiu, positioning himself, thinks that maybe he played poorly, and if he hadn't activated his rage at the last second, he would have been eliminated. The lone wolf approaches and says it looks like he's using a forbidden drug, but it doesn't matter because he's feeling motivated. He tries to attack with his sword, but Xiu defends with his spear, thinking that even with his rage he can barely compete with this guy, wondering if he really is elite in the elite class. Zhou says that this kid can definitely handle it, but this isn't his true ability, and he causes an extremely strong red aura. Xiu thinks he has a bad feeling about this. The redhead keeps attacking, using his martial skill to glide. Satisfied with the first cut, the protagonist tries to hold his ground but is thrown far away, causing a huge explosion. He falls to the ground and starts coughing. As he gets up, he thinks that the force was so strong that his silver soul, forged from Star Ocean minerals, took damage. Zhou, still unharmed, uses his 3 bars ability to keep attacking and rushes toward him. Xiu says that he didn't want to use his hidden trump card yet, but it seems there's no other choice. He then attacks with his torrential flower skill. The redhead laughs and says he already warned him that one attack is useless against him. The protagonist replies not to worry, as he has more in store. Using his 100 bird skill, he causes several flames. Zhou is shocked and creates a huge explosion, throwing Xiu into the wall. The redhead says this is bad for him, and unfortunately for Xiu, each of his cuts can absorb the opponent's martial ability and grow stronger. He says that Xiu's last attack was quite powerful. but his will be even stronger. Using the three assassins' strike, the protagonist realizes this is dangerous, and he might be eliminated here, but he remains confident and says he won't be defeated here. He has felt this way before, wondering if it's because he's on the brink of death or if it's due to using rage. With all his attributes increased, he feels a mysterious sensation, as if the spear is an extension of his body. A strong aura is released, and he says he will show the true power of torrential flower. Creating a powerful aura, he uses torrential bloom, crouching down. Meanwhile, Joe can't believe how this is possible. It's the same martial technique as before, but this time, injured, he says it can't be a definitive technique. He falls to the ground, and notifications appear saying that a martial artist has been eliminated, and Shu's level has increased to 15. Shu is happy with level 15, but as he tries to run, he falls face first to the ground. The transport plane is in motion. Meanwhile, the protagonist is lying in bed, slightly disoriented, and opens his eyes. Wen asks if he's awake, as he slept the whole day. Shu asks if they are on the aircraft. She replies yes, and that the cleaning operation is over, so they're heading back. She hands him a card. The protagonist asks what it is, and the captain says that the card contains 3 million Alliance coins, as his reward for eliminating Joe. She also says she nominated him. Xiu thanks her, and says he'll be able to fix his equipment now. She says she passed the money to him, and isn't even thinking about reimbursing him, calling him a cheapskate. The protagonist feels embarrassed and says it's all thanks to her, asking how he can repay the favor. Wen touches his hand and says she didn't give much to it. Moving closer, she asks if he's willing to pay with his body. He, flustered, responds that he's still a high school student and needs to focus on his studies. The captain steps back and says he's so clueless. To change the subject, Xiu asks what day it is. She replies that it's the 12th and asks why. Xiu gets up from the bed and says that today is the last day of the exam period, so he needs to hurry. She tells him not to worry, as it's 4 in the morning, and they will definitely make it in time. They arrive at the military academy's airport, and the leader announces the squads and the number of casualties and survivors. As they approach their squad, he thanks everyone for their hard work during the cleaning operation, and the superior said to award each of them a medal. Xiu observes and thinks that he'll receive a military medal from the Federation, and each medal has a unique identification code. Having a medal brings all kinds of benefits in daily life, to the point that even the police have to be careful how they treat you. The chief approaches him and says that his performance in this operation was truly exceptional, and because of him, the squad's survival rate was the highest. He even eliminated a level 3 dog and 2 wanted criminals all by himself. The soldiers are surprised that Zhu was able to eliminate a 3 RD level martial artist. The captain praises him for his skill and strength, asking if he is interested in joining their army. The protagonist responds that he is hesitant to accept, but is still in high school, and plans to continue his studies and attend college. The captain laughs and says he had forgotten that Xiu is just a student, but mentions that if he is interested in joining them after graduating from college, he would be welcome. Wen becomes interested in him, as he is concerned about his studies yet demonstrates the ability to defeat a rank 3 martial artist. Xiu says goodbye with a hug to Li, and the captain asks if he isn't going to say goodbye to her. Then she hugs him and says, "Who would have imagined that a guy so fierce in battle would be so shy? You should visit us, no matter how your status may change in the future. Don't forget the comrades who fought by your side until the end." Meanwhile, at the academy, the end-of-term competition is underway. The announcer welcomes the 20 participants to the arenas. The professor thinks that the protagonist hasn't arrived yet, and worries that if he doesn't participate, he will be expelled. Yang asks where he went to train, as it has been a while since he left and hasn't returned. Luo suggests waiting a little longer while they watch the fight. One student is thrown out of the arena, and the medical team rushes to help him. The announcer announces the winner, Tian, who easily defeated his opponent Liang, ranked 98th in the Academy's power ranking. The students in the stands discuss how Tian trained in the Path of Demise, a place with a 90% mortality rate. Then, the announcer calls out for the next participant, Xu, asking him to enter Arena 15. The professor grows more concerned as he hasn't arrived yet. The announcer asks if Xu is at the location. Meanwhile, his opponent, Chen, wonders how strong this guy really is. The announcer says that if Xu doesn't enter Arena 15 within the next 10 seconds, he will be disqualified. Xu responds that there's no need for that, and leaps, landing in the arena. The professor is relieved that he has arrived. Yang comments that Xu is always late, but always makes a dramatic entrance. Zhang mentions that it's been a month since he last saw him, and notes that he seems stronger now. Tian watches and asks if Xu wasn't eliminated by the Fortress of Light, and says that this is perfect, because now he can defeat him with his own hands. The announcer announces that the battle is about to begin. Chen approaches Yu and asks if he is the trash from class 29, telling him not to think he got lucky defeating Tian because the same thing will happen to him. Xu shows his pinky finger and says that Chen isn't even in the top 100 of the ranking, and that weaklings like him aren't worth the effort. Chen gets angry. The announcer signals for the match to begin. Chen, weapon in hand, approaches to attack, but Xu easily blocks. Chen is outraged by this. With a kick, Xu knocks him down and says that he doesn't even need a weapon to defeat him. Lying on the ground, Chen wipes his mouth and curses. He gets up and attacks with his martial skill. But Xu says it's his turn now and uses his explosive crack skill, causing a small explosion. Chen wonders how Xu's punches are so powerful and says that this can't be. Someone like him underestimated him. Then, Chen attacks again with his silver martial skill, 3,000 high steps. The people in the stands are impressed by this special skill, as Xu forced Chen to use a skill that drains his stamina, while Xu is still fighting barehanded. The protagonist thinks to himself that he is enjoying his martial skills, as they consist of 9 forms, and he easily dodges them, charging his rage meter. Since there's only 1 or 2 matches per day, the cooldown time isn't a problem. Xu then attacks with his explosive fist skill. Chen doesn't know how to react and is hit, thrown to the ground again. The announcer declares Xu as the winner. The professor is astonished, as Xu defeated someone ranked 150th with bare hands. After the protagonist exits the arena, people gather around to congratulate him. Yang asks where he was the whole month and why he didn't take him along to train. Xu responds that he went to a dangerous place and bringing Yang would only slow him down. The redhead jumps on him and starts teasing, asking what he just said, and the professor laughs. Then, Xu is observing the system, as after defeating Zhou, he couldn't check his stats after leveling up. He notices that he has unlocked the skill, Feign, which can hide his energy flow and make him appear as an ordinary person, distracting others. He also unlocked a genetic lock. He thinks he didn't expect so many updates, and that this Feign skill is clearly meant to deceive opponents, making them think he's weaker than he actually is. Additionally, he has finally unlocked a genetic lock. Looking at the process to unlock this lock, he sees that the chance of failure is high, 10% chance of elimination, 20% chance of losing consciousness, and 30% chance of failure to unlock. He thinks it's not worth risking his life on such a gamble, so he decides to put the 15 potential skill points into strength. The announcer calls Xu back for another battle. Lin, the academy's dean, observes the battle between the protagonist and his opponent and ponders. He hadn't thought Xu would return alive from the cleanup operation at the fortress, and yet he came back stronger. Now he wonders how he will face the Tang family. He thinks that putting him against one of his most powerful opponents who could publicly defeat him would be enough, and that he shouldn't have messed with the Tang family. After the fight, everyone watches the top 100 finalists. Yang says he hopes Xu's opponents will be martial arts beginners, and Xu replies that as long as they aren't anyone ranked in the top 10. Then they notice that the protagonist will face the opponent ranked 8th. They get irritated. Xu looks and asks, "Gu, number 8. Yang says he's a senior ranked in combat and often goes to areas infested with zombies and evolved beasts to gain battle experience. Meanwhile, Zheng comments that he is facing Tian in his first match and heard that he is stronger now. The professor approaches them and says it won't be easy to defeat both opponents, so he asks them to be careful. One of the staff members announces that Ye is there and asks for him to be welcomed. Ye greets them, and the staff member comments that he arrived earlier than expected, asking if he is eager to see the strength of his students. Ye asks Li to bring the record of his best students. The man says he's in no hurry, and is more interested in the top 100 competition, suggesting they watch the matches first. The announcer then calls participants Zhang and Tian to Arena 15. Tian asks if Zhang is from Class 29, and Zhang responds yes, acknowledging that Tian is strong, but he won't admit defeat easily. The blonde replies that there's no need for Zhang to admit defeat, as he will simply eliminate everyone from Class 29. Zhang challenges Tian to try, attacking him with his sword, but Tian dodges and grabs his arm, dislocating it and knocking the sword out of his hand. Stepping on Zhang's back and holding his arm, Tian says it's not over yet, and that he will break all of Zhang's limbs. Then a voice tells him to stop. Xu approaches and attacks Tian, saying the problem is with him, and that Tian shouldn't hurt his comrade. Tian replies not to worry, as he will destroy Xu the next time they face each other, and Xu will feel extreme pain as he slowly defeats him. The protagonist remembers who tried to eliminate him, and says he has scores to settle with him as well. When the time comes, it won't even matter if it's Tian's father, because he'll make Tian beg for his life. The announcer asks which class Xu is from. reminding him that interrupting a match is not allowed. Xu asks if, as a professor, he would just watch a student get beaten until they are eliminated. The announcer gets angry and says that since neither side has admitted defeat, the match is not over yet, and asks for Zhang to be taken to the doctor. The nurse asks Xu to take Zhang to the stretcher, and the announcer announces Tian as the winner. The protagonist asks why he hasn't seen the doctor in the past few days. She replies that he must have missed her, and since the competition is today, things were bound to get intense. She was worried about him, and came in case anything happened. Lying on the stretcher, Zhang raises his hand, his eyes filled with tears, and says he can't accept this, as the thought of being defeated with a single strike is unbearable. He warns Yu to be careful when facing him again. Yu says he will teach him a lesson. The announcer then calls Yu and Gu to enter Arena 9. The protagonist says it's his turn and walks over. People around him wish him good luck, and as he walks, he finds his opponent already in the arena. The dean observes the match. Once in the arena, Gu asks if Xu is the infamous one. Using his analyzer eye, Xu notes that Gu reached rank 2 at only 18 years old, and his overall strength is similar to Zhou's. He realizes it's no wonder Gu is ranked 4th in the entire academy. The announcer says to start. Without hesitation, Gu moves forward with his weapon and strikes the ground, making it crack. The arena floor is made of a special stone with steel-like hardness, and the protagonist wonders how Gu managed to make a hole with just one blow. Still holding the hammer over the ground, Gu says that no matter how fast Xu is, he won't be able to avoid having his head crushed by the hammer. He promises a painless elimination. The announcer narrates that this was a fierce strike and asks if Lin will be able to keep his position. Yang asks if Xu is going against Gu, and says it's a death sentence. The nurse tells him to shut up, and Yang flips him off. The redhead responds that anyone with eyes can clearly see Xu is going to lose, and if he wins, he'll eat the arena. The doctor says he won't be able to take back his words later. Gu raises his hammer to strike again, but Xu dodges, and the hammer hits the ground once more. Xu uses his spear, and the large man says he's weak, asking if he hasn't eaten or something. Xu observes and thinks he didn't expect Gu's brute strength to be so overwhelming, wondering if rage is his only option. But he realizes the skill's cooldown is long, and the top 100 competition has just started, so he decides to save the skill as a last resort. Gu asks if that's all Xu knows how to do, and tells him to just accept defeat. Then, the protagonist uses his torrential flower skill. The large man is outraged and defends, but is wounded by the spear. The redhead gets angry upon seeing Gu injured. The nurse observes with satisfaction and asks if Xu has figured out how to put the whole arena in his mouth. The redhead says Gu hasn't fought seriously yet. Gu laughs, turns with his hand on his shoulder, and says it wasn't too bad but is getting fun, and now it's time to take it seriously. He raises his hammer and uses his skill, releasing a massive aura. Gathering origin energy, Lin is alarmed, and a terrifying explosion occurs. Still attacking, Gu uses his mountain coercion skill. Xu thinks the hammer is emitting powerful waves of origin energy. Unable to move, he realizes there's no way to dodge, so he decides to give it his all. He then uses his homage to 1,000 birds and torrential flower skills. The announcer asks what technique that was, and the staff member suggests it might have been a combination of 2 skills. Ye is impressed and says that thinking the boy can use his martial skills like this. Another terrifying explosion happens, and the protagonist steps back, coughing and wounded. Gu laughs and says it's fine. It's been so long since a fight has been this exciting, and as a reward, he'll crush Xu's head with his hammer, asking if that wouldn't be fun. Xu is alarmed as the large man uses his martial skill Stilver and fierce tiger attack. The redhead watches and says that Gu has finally used the elimination attack. The nurse screams for Lin to leave the ring. Gu continues attacking. The redhead says Xu didn't even try to dodge the attack and is probably crushed. The blonde responds that he could have just jumped out of the arena. Yang and the professor are worried. The doctor is also concerned. The large man yells, saying now he'll see if Xu is still alive after this. The protagonist appears, coughing, saying he was almost crushed, and wonders why he always ends up facing the worst opponents. Gu, outraged, asks how this is possible and how Xu is still alive. Lin says he's sorry to disappoint him, but now he's done warming up. He then attacks. Gu asks if it's that skill again and says it's meaningless. He blocks, and Xu continues attacking. They exchange powerful blows. The large man asks what happened to this kid and why he suddenly got so strong. Using the Stormhammer skill, Gu says he won't lose. Then they keep fighting. The professor observes and says they're both going all out. Yang says it seems like Lin is struggling to keep up with his opponent's pace. The nurse tells him to shut up, saying she doesn't know anything. Still fighting, Gu gets more frustrated and asks if this is possible. Using the Fierce Lion skill, Shu attacks with his blade, saying this is the end for him, using the charged attack. The two clash, and the protagonist stops with his spear at his opponent's neck, saying he's won. Yang cheers happily for his friend, and the nurse asks the redhead how he would like to eat the arena, asking if he prefers it raw, fried, or steamed. The dean stands up, thinking he can't believe Lin won. The announcer raises Xu's arm, and people start chanting his name. Gu, injured, gets up and throws a pocket bomb. Then, he gets scared, causing an extremely strong explosion. The large man falls and laughs, saying that for sure, that eliminated him, and that it serves him right. But Xu is protected by Mr. Ye with a shield. It was a high-level technique that uses spherical origin energy, and only martial artists of level 6 or above can release origin energy within their bodies and use it to create a shield that protects them from any attack. Ye asks if Xu is hurt. He wonders if this old man is a high-level martial artist and answers that he's fine and thanks him. Mr. Ye says he's happy to see him okay and encourages him to keep up the good work because he sees potential in him. He then tells Gu that he knows he wants to win at all costs, but using underhanded techniques against his peers is crossing the line. The dean approaches and asks if Ye is all right. Ye responds, asking if this is what they consider outstanding students. The dean apologizes, saying he has no tolerance for such malicious behavior from his students and will ensure proper discipline. Xu thinks that, from the dean's flattery, Mr. Ye must be a good person. The doctor approaches and lifts his shirt, asking if he's hurt anywhere. He answers that he's fine and asks where she's putting her hands, as he already told her he's okay. The professor approaches and says that tomorrow's matches will be postponed due to this unexpected event, and asks Xu to treat his injuries, then go back to the dorm to rest and recover. The protagonist asks who Ye is. Luo responds that he's not sure but thinks Ye is the supervisor of one of the 5 main academies and is here for an evaluation. Lin says he can't wait to become a martial artist like him. In the student dorm, Xu is in his room and notices that, besides the monthly lottery the system conducts, he received another as a reward for reaching level 15. Now, he has 2 chances. He tells the system to spin the wheel. He hopes for a big prize. When the wheel stops, he gets frustrated, as it's a silver martial arts skill card for knives, and he doesn't even use knives. Then, the system detects an excess of martial arts skill cards, activating the synthesis system, which uses any 3 skill cards of the same level to merge them into one. Xu gets excited and says he can't wait to try this new feature, and he still has to spin for the rest, so he tells the system to spin the wheel again. Hoping for a gift pack, he's delighted when he finally gets one. After opening it, Xu finds the cards Piercing Blaze, Celestial Cut, and Glacial Strike. Xu isn't surprised, as Piercing Blaze uses the body's strength and agility to deliver a fatal blow, which is no different from a charged attack. He believes his Torrential Flower is much more useful in terms of speed. Now, with 3 silver martial skill cards, he decides to try out the new system. The system asks him to select the type of martial skill to synthesize. Asking if he wants to synthesize, Xu presses yes. The system then draws another card. He gets the silver martial skill card Spear Weapon Arts Judgment. Lin says it seems amazing, and that it's time to learn. It's a skill that reflects the opponent's attacks and martial arts back to them, consumes great energy, and has strict conditions for use. The protagonist gets excited, as everyone tries to block attacks, but now he has a skill that can reflect them. The announcer calls for Xu in the arena, and Fel asks if he's ready. Lin responds affirmatively, thinking he never imagined he'd face a girl. Fel raises a circle and traps Xu inside it. He asks what she's doing. The girl says there's no way for him to run, kisses his cheek, and leaves a lipstick mark. She tells the referee she surrenders, saying she can't fight against a celebrity. Xu is confused, and the people cheering for him are too. Then it's announced that he won the match. Yang says he's never been in this kind of situation. The nurse gets angry, asking how the girl dares to seduce her precious little one right in front of her. Yang asks if Lin didn't like it, and Lin gives him the middle finger. Suddenly, someone tugs at his shirt, and when he notices, it's the nurse who pulled him and kissed him. Xu covers his mouth and asks what that was. The nurse says the girl kissed his cheek in front of her, so she stole his first kiss. Sitting on the floor, he says she can't just steal his first kiss like that. She pats his head and says not to worry, as she'll take care of him. The announcer says it's time to decide the finalists, but there are still 25 participants left, so a 3-on-3 match will happen. The announcer thinks Xu should get ready for another surprise. Then, Lin notices he'll be fighting with 2 people and is shocked to see who they are. The professor says Zhu is ranked 12th in the academy, while Jiang is 10th, and from what he knows, the 2 are friends, so the match will turn into a 2v1. Xu worries but thinks he can win with his new martial skill. The 3 enter the arena, and the announcer asks them to prepare and start. Jiang uses his skill, 9 Claws Carnage, and Zhu uses his silver skill. They close in on Xu and attack him. Jiang also approaches to attack. Lin blocks both their blows, attacking with tribute to 1,000 birds. Jiang looks confident and blocks the attack. Xu observes and comments that he even sliced it. Jiang says his skill creates high-speed wind currents that can repel any attack sent against him, and that they've studied the match, so they know all of Xu's skills. He lists the skills he learned from the protagonist and attacks with the broken claws of heaven, saying Xu has no chance of winning. Zhu also attacks with his silver martial skill Steel Bat Spin. The people in the stands notice that the skills both are using are their strongest. The nurse says they're shameless, teaming up against Xu and using their most powerful techniques. Lin notices and asks if Jiang's skill can repel attacks. He says it's a coincidence because he has a similar skill. Using judgment, he faces both and attacks. Jiang gets scared, being attacked and thrown far away. Xu says now it's Zhu's turn. Using the charged attack and torrential flower, Xu causes a huge impact and explosion. Both fall to the ground. The announcer approaches to check the opponent's pulses, raises Xu's arm, and announces him as the winner. The people cheering for him are happy. The dean thinks it's unfortunate but that Xu won again. Tang asks to be matched up against him. The dean says he'll do it immediately. Tang says Xu is acting pretty arrogantly and that all the pain he endured on his way to the end will make sure Xu gets everything back in double. The announcer says the match now will decide the 6 finalists, and the first match is Xu against Tian. People comment that Xu defeated Tian in the past, and that both have become stronger, so it will be a risky competition. They wonder if Tian has been affected by the drug he took, and mention that Xu has walked the path to the end and trained for an entire month. Yang shouts for Lin to make sure to teach him a risky lesson this time. The protagonist looks and gives a thumbs-up gesture. Tang's younger brother says that this time Lin will definitely be eliminated. Yang asks if he came to watch his brother get defeated. Tang's brother gets upset and says they can't imagine the suffering his brother endured on the path, and that he did all of that to defeat Xu. Tian, in the arena, says that time flies, and he's here again, facing him. But this time, he will make sure to eliminate him. With his analyzing eye, Lin observes that Tian is now a rank 2 martial artist, and his overall battle strength is even greater than Gu's. Lin says the same goes for him, mentioning that Tian's father made it clear when he sent assassins after him, and that he won't stop until any of them are eliminated. Tian approaches, standing face to face with Lin. They stare each other down, and Lin thinks that Tian's raw sword power is no joke. The blonde says he spent 100 million coins on his sword, forged from a special metal, and that Lin's weapon is pathetic and worthless compared to his. He claims he spent a lot of money to buy the sword to defeat Lin, striking the blade against the ground. Lin steps forward with his spear, using his skill, Torrential Flower, but Tian uses a body technique. Xu is shocked. Yang asks the professor if it's a body technique, and he responds that it's impossible, that one would need to be a rank 3 martial artist to practice such a skill. Tang's brother asks who said it's impossible and warns that Lin better be prepared for a funeral. Tian uses his skill, Earth Split Slice, attacking Lin, and says he still has one more attack. He attacks again with Explosive Fist, pushing Lin and causing severe injuries. Lin thinks that Tian's Explosive Fist is much stronger than last time, and that, now being able to use body techniques, it means he's likely met the criteria to become a rank 3 martial artist. Lin can't even use Rage yet because of the cooldown, so he needs to come up with another way to win the match. Tian approaches and says that Lin is as weak as always, while the protagonist tries to think. Using his skill tribute to 100 birds, Lin asks if Tian still thinks he's afraid of that martial skill. Using more skills, Tian says he not only spent money on his sword, but also on various skill cards, all to find the perfect attack against Lin. Attacking with Cloudburst Torrent and then Traction, he creates multiple flames, dissipating Xu's attack. The people in the stands are shocked. The protagonist thinks that this is his second encounter with a skill that can neutralize tribute to 1,000 birds. Telling him to try again, he asserts that Tian won't be able to do the same with the next attack. Using Torrential Flower along with tribute to 1,000 birds, Lin prepares. Tian says he's welcome to try, attacking again with Torrential Torrent. The two fight intensely, creating a terrifying aura, and soon after, an explosion. But Lin notices that Tian really did dissipate the attack. The blonde laughs and says that now it's his turn. He steps forward, using bloody flames. The protagonist tries to defend with judgment, but his spear breaks and falls to the ground. The people get worried. Xiu notices he couldn't reflect the martial skill with judgment, and this only happens when there's a huge gap in strength. Without thinking twice, Tian rushes forward, attacking with his sword, but Lin blocks with the charged attack, counterattacking and throwing Tian back. Tian says he shouldn't have dodged his sword and that he would have been eliminated without pain in a single strike. Punching Lin in the face, he says he's going to crush every bone in his body. Using the technique again, Xiu tries to block. People in the stands tell him to give up. Lin says no, that he will never admit defeat, while being attacked by multiple punches to his face. The crowd is shocked, and the announcer tells the blonde to stop, asking if he doesn't see that Lin is already unconscious. Tian steps back and says he'll let him go this time because there are too many people watching, and he can't be eliminated yet, but he's definitely crippled. Lying on the ground, Xiu thinks this is so humiliating. Then he looks at the system and thinks about unlocking the genetic block, even though his chances are slim. He says that to take revenge on the Tang family, he's willing to risk it. Then, all of Lin's attributes are increased, and the system congratulates him for unlocking it, leveling him up to a rank 2 martial artist. The announcer says Tian is the winner, but the people in the stands raise their hands, indicating that Lin is moving. Then, the protagonist gets up, thinking that it feels like every cell in his body is explosively active, and this feels really good. Ye watches and thinks it's interesting because he didn't use any drugs, and there were no fluctuations in terms of martial arts. Before, he was useless, and now he can fight against someone who is almost a rank 3 martial artist. The announcer can't believe it, and Tian says he's full of tricks. Xiu rushes forward to attack his opponent. Tian says his explosive pulse is not afraid of him and attacks, but Lin's strike is stronger, injuring his arm. The blonde asks how he can be so powerful, but Tian's arm starts to disintegrate, revealing iron instead of bones. The protagonist asks if his arm is part robot. The blonde responds that it's because of him that he became half robot, half human. To cultivate, he went to the path and lost all his limbs to a monster there, having to become a kind of cyborg to survive. Although this transformation gives him power equivalent to a rank 3 martial artist, that's his limit, and in this life, he can't get any stronger, and that's all thanks to him, as he approaches to attack again. Lin strikes him in the abdomen and says he's only to blame for himself because he simply isn't as skilled as the others. Tian is thrown back, without his robotic arm. The blonde thinks it happened so fast, and he's attacked again with several strikes. Yang shouts for him to beat him until the end. Tang's younger brother shouts for him to stop. Xiu continues attacking with multiple punches, causing injuries, and still relentlessly continues attacking. The announcer tells him to stop since Tian is already unconscious. The protagonist lets go of him and steps back. The announcer raises Lin's arm and declares him the winner. The nurse says that it happened that he was defeated twice. Tang's brother says Tian demonstrated the power of a rank 3 martial artist, but his opponent is too strong. The dean is in disbelief. Ye says that's exactly it. Tian, with his hand in his pocket, stands up and pulls out a syringe. Running up behind Lin, Xiu grabs his arm, and the announcer tells him it's over and asks what he has in his hand. Tian responds that it's a gift he brought back from the path to the end, especially for him, a virus, and that just one drop is enough to turn him into a zombie. The announcer orders him to stop right now, as he's breaking the law. The blonde laughs and says that his goal is to turn Lin into a zombie. Xiu says he's forcing him to do this, taking the syringe from his hand and injecting it into Tian's neck. The blonde starts screaming no, transforming into a monster. Then, Xiu grabs the blade of his spear with his foot and kicks it, defeating him. Tang's younger brother shouts no. A voice approaches, saying to return the life of their little Tian. Lin looks up and finds Bai attacking him, but the protagonist dodges. Bai asks if he's dodging, but Ye appears and calls him reckless, attacking him. When Ye moves closer, the senior prevents him. Bai wonders if Ye is a rank 6, and when did they have a rank 6 in the city. He says he will take Lin to the police station because he eliminated his son, and asks him not to interfere. Ye disagrees, saying that from what he saw, it was Zhu eliminating a corpse that had already mutated, for the safety of the academy, and asks if it's illegal to eliminate zombies. Bai stays quiet, and his servant approaches, asking to take Tian's body back. The man says that to prevent the spread of the virus, before the police confirm the situation, doing whatever they want with corpses that turn into zombies is not allowed. Bai just watches. The director arrives and says that this incident happened at the academy, but he can take the body and wait a bit under the stage. When the police arrive to confirm things, they can take it. Xiu thanks him. Ye says it's just a courtesy, as he didn't do anything wrong, and if anyone wants to embarrass him with this matter, they'll have to go through him first. Bai watches, furious. The director and the dean observe. In the Federal Army, people are watching the Academy's broadcast and its students. The soldiers say that he eliminated the young master of the Tang family after returning, but even if it's the family's fault, given their influence and power, they will definitely take action. Wen opens the door and says he heard about the incident, and that they'll receive orders to leave tomorrow and investigate the matter. The soldiers say yes. Jin says that's great because he was thinking of how to help Xiu. Lee laughs and says he can go back to his old school. The captain thinks that he wasn't expecting this. Someone knocks on the door. Lin, exhausted, asks who it is so early in the morning. Opening the door, the dean says this is Xiu. The commander shows him his phone and says he is suspected of murder, so he has to come with them. The protagonist asks if they're acting against him so quickly, and says he was sent to be eliminated at the Fortress of Light earlier, asking if he's the old man who made that dirty joke. The dean calls him impudent as a student, and asks if this is how he speaks to a teacher. He says that a loser like him deserves to be arrested. Xiu calls him an old bastard and says he doesn't deserve to be called a teacher. The investigator tells him to stop wasting breath on him and just arrest him and take him away. Lin says he received a star medal and doesn't believe he has the right to arrest him. If they want to arrest him, the federal army should be the ones to do it. The investigator looks at him, indignant. They speak quietly among themselves, and the dean tells them not to listen to the nonsense from that piece of garbage. Since he's a high school student, there's no way he has a star medal, asking them to take him away. Xiu says they better think about the consequences. The army transports position themselves. The soldiers enter the dormitory, and the captain calls him shameless. The dean is confused. She asks how he dares to do this to a federal soldier with a star medal, telling them to take everyone away. The dean is puzzled. The soldiers position their weapons. The dean asks what's going on, and the investigator says he's also doing business. Xiu tells him not to say he wasn't warned. The captain says they contacted their superiors, and if it's not abuse of power, of course, they'll let him go. She touches Lin's shoulder and says they've met again. Jin asks how it's going and says they arrived at the perfect time. Lee laughs and says the instructor sent them as soon as they saw the news and knew the Tung family would cause trouble. The professor says that even though it's not his fault, the Tung family is one of the main shareholders of the school, and under their pressure, the school will still punish him for what happened yesterday. Xiu asks what kind of punishment. The professor says he was also notified this morning and hands him an envelope, as the school believes that even though the needle had the virus, he deliberately injected it into Tian's body, causing a mutation. So, the school is expelling him. Lin grabs the envelope, enraged, and curses at them. Luo apologizes and says that, as a teacher, he cannot bear this burden and cannot do anything about it, but he is friends with teachers from another school and will see if he can help arrange a transfer. The protagonist, discouraged, thanks him for his help and says that if a student is expelled, transferring to another school is a problem. The captain says there's no need to stay there, and that the instructor asked them to come earlier to formally invite him to join the federal army. Xiu says that's right, since he won't be able to finish his last year of school, so he won't be able to go to university. In that case, it's better to join the federal army and eliminate zombies with his partners. Ye approaches and says not necessarily. He says Xiu can also choose not to join the federal army, and now, he can go to their school, handing him a piece of paper. The captain says under her breath that she can't believe the old man stole him. Jin says she should hold back as he seems quite powerful, and Lee whispers too. One tells the two of them to be quiet and watches Yu. He reads the paper and says it's from the Sanctuary University. The soldiers ask what Sanctuary University is. Ye says it's responsible for the university's special admissions office and is always looking for talented students to offer special admissions. Since he observed Lin, his talents fully meet the university's requirements. The protagonist says he's already been expelled. The senior says the reason Sanctuary University has special admissions offices is that it has the right to offer special admissions. He doesn't need to attend the National College Entrance Exam. As with his ability, he doesn't even need to attend the last day of high school. Lin is happy and says he'll definitely go. While reading the admission letter, he thinks being expelled was a blessing in disguise, as he never imagined he would become a student of Sanctuary. He remembers Luo and thinks he never imagined they would meet so soon. He asks for the university's address, since he already searched the location on Google, and the admission letter doesn't mention anything either. He says he should go to the end of the path of the end, and there will be someone to guide him to Sanctuary University. The soldiers are shocked. The path of the end doesn't refer to a road, but to an area. This place has enormous zombies and high-level evolved creatures, and it's known as one of the most dangerous areas on the planet. It is also said that some of the strongest rank 10 evolved creatures are there. There are also the remains of several mysterious labs that were left behind during the war. Ye asks if he's scared. Xiu replies that he's just a little excited, thinking there's nothing scary about the path of the end because the more zombies and beasts there are, the more EXP he will gain. The senior pats him on the shoulder and asks what he plans for the future. Xiu says he needs to get his martial artist license and then report to the university. Ye says he'll have many benefits for his development. He wishes him good luck. People congratulate him for becoming a student of Sanctuary University. He thanks them. The captain asks why they don't have some drinks to celebrate. Xiu calls the professor to come along, and he asks if he can bring some friends. Lin says the more the better. The nurse, drinking, says she wishes the best for little Xiu. Everyone says cheers and toasts. The doctor pulls him aside and says not to worry, because when he settles at the university, she'll accompany him. Fel says she'll definitely help him rank up quickly and enter the university early. Yang says he's a role model for his generation because when a girl and a lowly are interested in him, and when, by his side, pretending to be an older sister, can barely wait to go with Lin, just from looking into her eyes. The captain throws some hot food at his head and says that if he doesn't stop talking nonsense, she'll send someone to beat him until he looks like a pig. She stands up and says that's enough, asking when Xiu is going to the Black Sea City. Approaching the protagonist, she asks if he wants her to take him there, as she drives very well. The doctor glares at her angrily. Xiu, feeling suffocated, says he doesn't need it, as he plans to walk there alone and also gain EXP along the way. He says he has to get stronger. On the edge of the City of Bright Stars, the protagonist walks through the forest, sighing and saying that the silver spear broke into several pieces and can't be repaired. He can only temporarily buy a spear in case of emergency. Later, when he gets his license, he will be able to purchase powerful weapons from the Federation's website. The plants sway. Lin thinks there's something around, as he senses the breath of zombies or evolved creatures, so they must be martial artists. He wonders if people are already gaining EXP, until something tries to attack him from behind. He dodges, counterattacking with his explosive fist ability, which cracks, sending the martial artist crashing into a tree. The martial artist is impressed, and the other two approach to attack Xiu. The boy says he can't escape this time. The protagonist asks if that depends on him, and attacks, throwing him to the ground. The redhead says he's obviously weak and asks why he's so frighteningly strong. Lin laughs and asks if they are from the Tang family, as they're so annoying. The three of them approach to attack together, but Xiu uses his 100,000 birds ability, turning it into a huge flame and throwing them to the ground. The protagonist asks, since he's done with the subordinates, if the leader shouldn't appear. Bai appears and says there are so many of them, and they can't deal with a student, making a mess of things, cursing him. He says he'll make Xiu pay for his little Tian. Xiu says if Bai is worried that Tian is lonely, he doesn't mind sending him there with him. Bai attacks him with a sword, but Lin defends and counters with torrent flowers. The old man dodges and strikes the trees. He thinks the boy is really strong, as 5 strikes were fired in an instant, calling him a piece of cake. Using his crescent slash ability, he attacks again. Xiu dodges and thinks the sword is strong, but the rage ability is still on cooldown, so he needs to survive until then. Bai asks if he's hiding and will see if he can hide now, using the crescent slash ability multiple times. Lin uses his 1,000 birds ability, causing flames and a huge explosion. Bai, in the middle of the explosion, absorbs the energy. Xiu is outraged. The old man thanks for the flames, as they made his movements stronger, using his martial ability of golden and causing a celestial dancing phoenix. The protagonist says he can't dodge this and tries to hold it with judgment. He notices he's managing to hold it, but Bai can't believe it. Lin's attack object breaks in half and he's thrown far away, causing a huge explosion. Lin starts coughing. The old man approaches and says he has no weapons, asking how he will fight him now, and attacks with his sword. Xiu tries to hold the sword, but his rage ability runs out. Then, he activates his ability again to attack. Bai is startled. Lin says he's waited until now and attacks with his rage strike. The old man wonders why Lin's aura has gotten stronger, thinking he didn't see him take any medicine and didn't sense any specific fluctuation in his arts. Bai is attacked and thrown far away, injured. Xiu approaches and picks up the fallen sword, saying that it's not so bad. The old man says he can't be eliminated, as he's the leader, and his family won't let him off. Lin says the Tang family never had his radar, asking if Bai knows the reason he's leaving the academy. He says it's because he received an admission letter from the university. Bai asks if he wasn't expelled, and the protagonist replies that, in the future, he won't be like the Tang family. Then, he eliminates him with the sword, receiving an EXP notification. Tired and relieved, Lin says it's finally over. As expected, the old man was about to reach rank 4, and if he hadn't used rage, he could have been defeated.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and like the video. Thank you.